Good evening, everybody. I welcome you all to the class in my new look. I hope everyone is doing great. Reason for this new look is excessive shedding of hair post-COVID. So all of you know I had COVID in the month of May. Last month I experienced excessive shedding of hair, and therefore, as the first line of defense after all the घरेलू नुस्खे of हर टाइप का तेल लगाना, the next line of defense is this. Chalo. Anyways, let us begin our class. I hope everyone is doing great. Till the last time we had discussed regarding supply of money. First we discussed demand of money, in which we discussed the transaction demand and the speculative demand. Last class mein we started with supply of money. In supply of money we discussed first aspect that money supply is a determined number. That is, RBI determines money supply. It is a number. RBI says, okay, this is the amount of money that needs to be circulating in the economy. So RBI takes a decision. Money supply is a fixed number. Number one. RBI takes the decision based on what it feels is the required amount of money in the economy. How much money demand is there? Based on that, RBI will take a decision. This is the amount of money that will be circulating in the economy. ये हमने डिस्कस किया था. We discussed money supply measures as in M1, M2, M3, M4. That what is M1? Money supply measurement. How much amount of money is circulating in the economy? Money supply measures. To measure the total amount of money present in the economy. There are different ways through which we can count money. Counting money is not just one number. What is the objective? Objective is to count the amount of money present in the economy. How much money is there in the economy? To count that number, there are various measures. Those measures are called money supply measures. M1, M2, M3, M4. M1 being the most basic type of money is simply the currency in circulation and demand deposit in banks. M1. M2 is currency in circulation. M1 plus post office deposits. M3 is M1 plus time deposits. What was time deposit? Time deposits were those deposits which are your money which is there in the bank, but it is not available on demand. Demand deposit क्या होते हैं? Demand deposit is money which is available on demand. You demand it, you will get it. That is demand deposit. Time deposit, money which is available on time. You ask for it, it is not available all the time. You demand it, it's not available all the time. It will be available only at specific point in time. Let's say 2 years from now, 3 years from now, whenever your FD matures. So that is time deposit. So M3 consists of currency in circulation plus demand deposits with bank plus time deposits with banks. And M4, the broadest measure, consists of M3 plus all type of post office deposits. So these were basic types of measures of money. After that, we looked at money creation process. How is money created? We discussed that money is created in two ways. Money creation happens in two ways. Creation of money. Creation of money. We discussed creation of money by RBI and creation of money by the banking system. By the banking. दो तरीके से money create होता है. Money is created in two ways, by RBI and by the banking system. The initial amount of money in the original, let's call it original, the seed money is created in the economy by RBI. From that seed money, the banking system will do its work and more money will be created. From this initial seed, the plant will grow. So RBI creates initial amount of money and the banking system creates more money from that initial money. How does RBI create money? This we had discussed. ये हमने discuss किया था. ये अभी बचा है हमारा. Creation of money by the banking system. How does RBI create money? We discussed that RBI buys assets against the currency that it prints and circulates in the economy. RBI creates money by printing money. Printing money doesn't mean money has been created. Printing is one part of the job, just the first part of the job. Printing के बाद the money has to be injected into the economy. Money doesn't come into existence merely when RBI prints it. Money will come into existence when that printed currency is introduced in the economy. So first RBI prints. Second, RBI sells that currency and buys some assets in return. Let's say RBI will buy gold, RBI will buy government bonds, RBI will buy foreign currency assets in return. So something will have to be bought by RBI in exchange for currency which is injected by RBI into the economy. So this is how RBI creates money. In order to maintain trust in the value of money, RBI has this assets system, reserve system. RBI has to maintain assets, as in RBI has to necessarily acquire assets against any amount of money that goes into the economy. At the same time, the RBI governor also makes a promise that I promise to pay the bearer a sum of whatever is printed on that currency note. What is meant by this promise? This promise simply means that RBI will try to ensure that this currency will be accepted by everybody. RBI will try to ensure that the currency note that you have, it's a legal tender and everybody accepts it. This is what RBI will do. This is what it means when means of the pledge that RBI governor has written on that currency note. Carrying on this discussion, we also discussed the concept of balance sheet of RBI, in which we discussed assets and liability. RBI की assets and liabilities discuss की हमने. Assets consist of, let's say, foreign currency assets, government bonds, loans that RBI has given, gold. All these are assets of RBI. Liabilities are, the biggest liability is currency in circulation. Other liabilities of RBI are banks deposits with RBI, governments deposits with RBI, some loan that RBI may have taken from banks or government, that is also RBI's liability. So all these are part of RBI's liabilities. The total liabilities of RBI, the total of RBI's liability is called M0, M0, or high powered money, high powered money, total of RBI's liability. Sum of all RBI's liability is called M0 or high powered money. Total liabilities of RBI, also called as monetary base, also called as monetary base. We also discussed how does RBI earn income and how does RBI transfer that income. Liabilities are zero cost or very low cost for RBI, whereas assets are interest earning. Assets earn interest, plus assets also usually appreciate. Gold hai jaise, gold also appreciate. So RBI earns incomes or its assets appreciate, whereas liabilities are mostly zero cost or very low cost. And the difference between your outgoings on liabilities and earning on assets becomes your income. So usually RBI usually has a very big amount of income by the virtue of role that it performs in the economy. RBI is performing some role and that is leading to RBI earning some income. After deducting for its expenses and after deducting for its requirements that it sees it will need in the next year, the remaining amount is called RBI's surplus, and that surplus is transferred in its entirety to the central government. सरकार को पूरा का पूरा surplus, RBI will transfer entire surplus to the central government after deducting its expenses and setting aside what the amount that it requires for next year. यहां तक हमने डिस्कस किया था. I also told you about the capital framework. And what was the name of committee? Earlier we had Usha Thorat committee, and now the money is transferred. How much it is RBI assesses how much money it will need this year based on recommendation of Bimal Jalan committee. Bimal Jalan committee recommended कि RBI को अपने लिए in 1 year RBI will need this much amount of money. Based on that, RBI assesses, okay, this much amount of money is required. It keeps aside that much money, remaining money it transfers to the government. So this is what we had discussed already regarding transfer of RBI surplus to the government. यहां तक हमने डिस्कस किया था. ठीक है. Now we have to start with money creation by the banking system. ये हमको start करना है, money creation by the banking system. ठीक है. चलो. I'll dictate notes of whatever we have discussed till now. Creation of money वाला part. I'll dictate notes to you. तो चलो एक काम करते हैं. First let me explain this money creation by the banking system, then I'll dictate notes. ठीक है. पहले ये discuss कर लेते हैं. Let us discuss money creation by banking system, then I'll dictate notes to you. And any questions which might be there, which are there, I'm already seeing them. Any questions that you have, I'll answer them after that. पहले ये discuss कर लेते हैं. Let's discuss this first. Then I'll dictate notes to you. Then I'll see your questions. I'll try to answer your questions because I think in this revision part, I might have answered most of the questions. When I dictate to you, then again most of your questions will be answered. तो एक काम करते हैं, पहले ये डिस्कस करते हैं, फिर डिक्टेशन देते हैं, and then if anything remains, I'll answer that. Fine? चलो, let's discuss this second part. Creation of money by the banking system. How does RBI create money? How does the banking system create money? ठीक है, तो ये डिस्कस करते हैं. Money creation by the banking system. So we have discussed creation of high powered money by RBI. ये हमने डिस्कस किया है. We have discussed creation of high powered money, that is M0 by RBI. RBI creates this money. Now we are talking about money creation by the banking system. How does the banking system create money? Banking system creates money. पहले हम इसको ब्रॉडली ऊपर से समझते हैं और उसके बाद हम इसको डिटेल में समझेंगे. फर्स्ट लेट्स गेट अ ब्रॉड आइडिया, क्योंकि इट इज अ लिटिल बिट डिटेल्ड एंड मैथमेटिकल, क्वाइट इजी, बट थोड़ा सा इसमें मैथमेटिक्स है. फर्स्ट वील अंडरस्टैंड इट ब्रॉडली without any technical jargon, without any mathematics. We'll understand what exactly does banking system does. Then I will repeat the same thing but with technical jargon and mathematics. Okay? So first I'll tell you about creation of money by banking system in simplest of terms, then with technical jargon and mathematics. So simplest of terms में कैसे banking system money create करता है? Banking system creates money by the process of lending and re-lending the same money. Banks essentially, what do? They take deposits and they give out loan. This is the essential function of a bank. Essential function of a bank is to take deposit and lend this money. This is essentially the central function that the bank does. डिपॉजिट लेना और लेंड करना. What banks do is banks will take some money. I have got some money. I will deposit that money in bank. Banks will lend this money to somebody else. Now what happens is, let's say I had some money with me. I put my money in bank. So my money is already there in bank. Bank में वो पैसा है मेरे पास. I had some money, I had 100 rupees with me and I deposited those 100 rupees in the bank. So now my money is there with bank. Simply it's not in my pocket as in form of currency, but it is still kept in the bank. Now I trust the bank. That is why I have given my money to the bank. I trust it that my money will be kept safe in the bank. That is why I have given this money. Now I will not need that 100 rupees all of a sudden all the time. Why have I kept that money with bank? Because that money is over and above my normal demand. I will keep that money in the bank. I may want, let's say for my transaction purposes, I may want to withdraw 5 rupees. I may want to withdraw 10 rupees. I may want to withdraw 15 rupees. But I will not want to withdraw those 100 rupees that I have kept in the bank. Why? Because if I had to withdraw those 100 rupees, then why would I keep them in bank in the first place? भाई मेरे को अगर निकालने ही है तो if I have to withdraw them, why would I keep entire 100 rupees in the bank? बैंक के साथ I'm not playing with the bank. I don't have time to waste. As in I will deposit money then withdraw all the money. I deposit money and rationally there is a very little chance that I will need that entire money. Some person might need it. Some person who has deposited his or her money might need entire money that they have deposited in the bank, but usually people will not need entire amount of money that they have deposited. They will need only a fraction of that. Their money they think is being kept safely in the bank. They withdraw some part of that money, but not all, very little amount. Bank knows this. Bank को ये पता है that out of the total deposit, that it has taken, there would be a demand of very less number. Let's say out of 1000 rupees of deposit that bank has taken, bank will assess how much money may be needed for people for withdrawal. Bank ने assess किया, मान लो 100 rupees might be needed. Bank assesses that okay, 100 rupees might be needed for people, by the people for withdrawal for their daily purposes. 100 रुपए ज्यादा से ज्यादा निकाल लेंगे, 1000 रुपए कभी नहीं निकलेंगे. That means bank now sees that it has 900 rupees lying extra with itself. At the same time, bank sees that there is some person in the economy who needs money. There were some people in the economy who had surplus money. Let's say salaried people who are salaried, they have surplus money with them. They put their money in bank. Bank will now see, okay, there is some person in the economy who needs money. And this person who needs money is ready to give bank some interest on this money. Person 1 needs money and he is ready to pay bank some interest on this money. What will bank want now? Bank will want 100 rupees I have set aside and this is the amount that people will need at any time. They will not need entire 500 or 900 rupees. What I can do is I can rationally assume this to be true and I can lend this money to person 1 and earn some interest on this. Now person 1 gets these 900. Ab person 1 के पास ही 900 rupees आ गए. Person 1 has borrowed this money. Why? Because he needed to spend it. कहीं ना कहीं spend करने थे. Person 1 required it to spend money. That is why he borrowed. Let us say person 1 borrowed it to buy a car. P1 needs to buy a car from these 900 rupees. P1 has borrowed money from the bank, 900. This bank, this 900 rupees is borrowed by P1 from the bank. P1 now gives this money to P2 to buy a car. 900 rupees given to P2 and car purchased by P1. Now tell me, this 900 rupees that P2 receives, is this money borrowed by P2? No, it's not. This money belongs to P2. ये P2 का अपना खुद का पैसा है. This is P2's own money now. Why? Because P2 has sold a car to P1 for this money. P2 ने गाड़ी बेची. P2 has sold some real object to P1 and P1 has paid to P2 for this car in form of 900 rupees. So this P2 is money. This 900 rupees is money of person 2. Belongs to person 2. ये person 2 का money है. Person 2 gets this money. He will take this money back to the bank and deposit this money. Person 2 क्या करेगा? 900 rupees मिले. Person 2 will deposit this money back to the bank. The total deposits with bank. Total deposits with bank. Earlier were 1000 rupees and now 900 rupees has again been received by the bank. Bank's total deposits by bank, total deposits in the bank are how much? Total deposits in the bank are 1000 rupees of the initial deposit plus 900 rupees of the new deposit. So therefore bank के पास तो अब 1900 rupees हो गए हैं. Bank now has 1900 rupees in form of deposits. It's just an electronic entry. But electronic entry says that bank now has 1900 rupees. How much money was initially there with the banking system? It was only 1000 rupees. But bank has now lent some money after setting aside some part money. After setting aside 100 rupees, bank has lent some money. This money has been spent and it comes back to the banking system. And therefore, the total deposit with the banks increase. What happens to money supply? Money supply is currency in circulation plus deposits with bank. So deposits with bank have increased from 1000 to 1900 or not? Therefore money supply has increased. Money supply increase हो गई. Money supply which was initially only 1000 rupees, deposit का part, let's assume currency 0 है. Money supply which was initially 1000 rupees has now increased to 1900. Why has it increased? It has increased because bank has circulated that initial 1000 rupees in such a manner that it has come back to the bank in form of deposits of some person. 900 rupees which were lent by the bank to P1, they were not P1s. ये 900 रुपए P1 के नहीं है. These 900 rupees do not belong to P1. They belong to the bank. They are bank's money. But P1 bank has agreed to lend this money to P1, point number one. And P1 has spent this money on buying some goods from P2. Therefore, now this 900 rupees becomes P2 money. P1 को वापस करने हैं. P1 has to return this money to the bank, but now 900 rupees becomes P2 money and it gets to the bank back in form of deposits. Therefore, deposits of public with the banking system, they have increased. Hence, money supply has increased from 1000 to 1900. Now bank has 1900 rupees as deposits. What will bank do? From this, bank will assess, okay, from these 1900, total deposits with bank now are 1900. From 1900, bank will now assess, okay, 200 rupees might be required by people for withdrawal. 1700 rupees we have that we can lend. 700 रुपए हमारे पास हैं जिनको हम लेंड कर सकते हैं. और from the initial amount of 1000, the new amount of 900, let us say in 900, इसको अगर हम break down करें, from the new 900 that the bank has received, from the new 900 that the bank receives, let us say bank assesses that 200 will be required, may be required for deposit purposes. 700 still we have in excess which we can lend. 700 रुपए हम अभी भी lend कर सकते हैं. This is 1900 was total, 900 is extra over and above that. So 900 is the new amount of deposit. Out of that new deposit that bank receives, bank will think कि 200 रुपए हमारे, maybe whatever logic bank uses कि भाई to assess rationally how much demand would be there. 200 rupees might be required. 700 rupees we still have extra, we can lend this money. They will lend this to P3. P3 will spend this on P4. P4 will deposit this money back into the bank. So bank will get 700 rupees now. Total deposit with the banking system will now become 2600 rupees. 700 rupees lent to P3. P3 spends it on P4. P4 gets this money back to the bank. 700 रुपए वापस से बैंक के पास आ गए. Total deposit with the banks are now 1000 plus 900 plus 700. So 1900 पहले थे, 700 रुपए वापस घूम के आ गए. So now total deposit with the bank become 2600. From this new 700, bank will, let's say, again assess maybe 100 rupees is what we required from this new amount of 700. That means 600 rupees we can still lend. Bank will lend it to P4, P5. P5 will spend this money on P6. P6 will deposit this money back to the bank. 600 rupees बैंक के पास फिर घूम के आ गए. So money will be circulating in the economy by virtue of function that the banking system performs. What is the function of banking system? Banking system essentially just takes deposits from the public and lends that money to the public. When money is lent, it will be spent. When it is spent, the new person will deposit this money back to the bank and hence bank will get more deposits. So deposits with the bank will keep on increasing, essentially meaning that the amount of money circulating in the economy will keep on increasing. I hope this is clear. I'll explain this mathematically also. चिंता मत करो, mathematics भी मैं इसकी explain करूंगा क्या है. But I hope this part should be clear. The broader part should be clear. Now, as you can see, in every round, the amount of money that returns to the banking system is getting smaller and smaller. In the first round, amount of money that returns to the bank was 900. That means bank now has 900 rupees to lend new 900 rupees to lend. Out of 900, banks keep some as deposits and lends remaining amount. So now bank will receive back 700 rupees. Amount that the bank receives back shrinks. क्यों? क्योंकि 900 rupees थे, some part of it was set aside in expectation that people will withdraw this money. Some part of money was lent and this money is what bank receives back. Now in the third round, bank receives 700 rupees. अब बैंक इस राउंड में 700 में से कुछ मनी सेट असाइड करेगा. बैंक विल सेट असाइड some amount of money. Bank will lend remaining amount If it sets aside some amount, the amount remaining with it reduces. So bank now has 600 rupees to lend. It lends 600 rupees. It will get back 600 rupees in the next round. In next round, it will have 600 rupees of new deposit. It will, let's say, set aside 100 rupees. It will lend out remaining 500. 500 रुपए फिर वापस बैंक के पास घूम के आएंगे, and so on so forth. This cycle keeps on going. But as you can see, in this cycle, the amount of money which is returning to the bank in every cycle keeps on shrinking. 900, say 700, say 600, say 500. It keeps on shrinking, the amount of money that keeps on returning with the bank. And therefore, with more number of rounds, the amount of new money which bank is receiving will keep on going down and down. Eventually, it will go down to zero. Eventually, there will come a stage, let's say, एक stage आई जहां पे बैंक को 50 rupees वापस मिले. And bank assesses, okay, this 50 rupees is the amount that will be set aside for deposit purposes. Let's say 50 rupees is what banks receive, and bank assesses कि we will need 50 rupees for deposit requirement. People might withdraw 50 rupees. So then bank will have 0 rupees to lend you. तब बैंक के पास कोई नया रुपया नहीं बचेगा. Out of the new money, bank will not have any new money to lend, and therefore this process, this cycle will stop. I hope you can visualize this quite easily. In every round, the amount of money which is returning to the banking system is reducing. So eventually 900, 700, 600, 500, so on and so forth, eventually it will come down to zero. Eventually there would be some point where it will come down to zero. So then this money creation process will stop. This money creation cycle is not infinite. Banks are creating money. They cannot create infinite amount of money from the money which they originally have. This ability to create new money is limited. हर cycle में bank is receiving back money, and because of that more money is being created. But in every cycle the amount of money that it receives back is reducing, is shrinking, and therefore eventually this process will come to a halt. I hope this is clear. Finally, when this process comes to a halt, जब ये process halt पे आएगा, let us say at this point when this process comes to a halt, initially deposits were 1000, in next round deposits were 900, in next round deposits were 700, in next round deposits were 600, so on so forth. So in every round some new money keeps on coming back to the bank, which enables bank to create more money. Eventually this process will stop. Eventually this number will decrease to zero. Let us say at the time that this number decreases to zero, 600, say 400, say 100, say 200, say 100, say 50, say 25, eventually it will come down to zero. Why? Because it is decreasing in number. At the time when it decreases to zero, when we add all the deposits with bank, let us add all the deposits with bank at the time this process of money creation stops. Let us say at this point 1000 plus 900, 1900 plus 700, 2600 plus 600, 3200, so on and so forth. Let's say eventually it stops down to 5000. Eventually when the last rupee comes to the bank and is circulated back by the bank, उसके बाद बैंक के पास कुछ नहीं बचता है. Eventually whatever number is, the sum of all these comes out to be 5000. Let's say 5000 rupees is now the total amount of money circulating in the economy. 5000 rupees is the total deposits with banks. 5000 rupees is total deposits with bank. Let's say 5000 rupees, assuming currency in circulation. इसमें हमने we have assumed कि P6 सारा का सारा पैसा वापस बैंक को कर रहा है, therefore there is no currency. P5, P4, everybody is returning, depositing entire amount of money with the bank. So we assume that they are not keeping any currency with themselves. So let's assume that there is no currency, only money supply is deposits. So the total deposits with the banking system now amount to 5000 rupees. How much was initial amount of money in the economy? 1000. 1000 was the initial amount of money. And because of banking systems, because of the process that banking system has engaged itself in, because of that the total money in the economy has become 5,000. That is 5x the initial amount of money. This was the seed and this is the tree. 1,000 rupees was the initial seed money that was put in the system, in the economy by RBI, and the banking system has increased that initial amount of money to 5,000. That is 5 times the initial money. This is the money multiplier process. Money multiplier process. ये money multiplier process है. 5 times the initial amount. This 5 is nothing but your money multiplier. Initial amount of money and final money. 5 is your money multiplier. Represented as small m. ये इसकी standard notation है. Small m. Small m is called money multiplier. This was initial amount of money, high powered money. This was M0, capital M0. This is small m. This is our M1. ये हमने M1 माना है. We have assumed the most easiest form of money supply, M1. So money supply M1. Money supply M1 is equals to M money multiplier times M0. This is the concept of money multiplier. Money multiplier मतलब क्या? Initial high powered money, the seed money, times multiplier. That is how much time is the banking system able to increase the initial amount of money into the total amount of money circulating in the economy. Total amount of money circulating in the economy is this much, M1, money supply, which is money multiplier times M0, the initial amount. This is how money is created by the banking system. So banking system ने 4,000 रुपए नए create कर दिए. 5,000 rupees is the total amount of money. Extra 4,000 rupees are coming from the banking system. Out of the total money supply, that is M1, 5,000 rupees, 1,000 rupees are creation of RBI. The remaining 4,000 are creation of banking system. This is how money is created by the banking system. Banking system creation of money. Money creation by the banking system. This is how it is created. This was a broad outline. I did not use any technical word here. I did not use any mathematical concept. I mean, ये mathematical नहीं है. This is just through numbers I tried to explain. No concept here. This is how money is created by the banking system. I hope this is clear to you. Now, in next 15 to 20 minutes, I'll explain this concept with the help of some technical terms which are important for us. Have been asked many times in prelims, therefore we need to know those terms. The concepts of currency deposit ratio, reserve deposit ratio. Reserves and CDR, these are the two concepts that we need to know. And from that, our understanding of this process, ये जो banking का, this process of lending by bank, money being received by the bank, then this money going back into the economy again. This process will be more clear when we understand two important terms, which is reserve deposit ratio and currency deposit ratio. So now let me explain this with the help of some key specific terms. I hope this broad process is clear to everybody. क्या ये broad process है? Okay, let me tell you. There are two ratios that we need to be concerned about, two important terms that we need to know. One is called CDR, currency deposit ratio, and the second one is called RDR, reserve deposit ratio. These two terms have been asked multiple times in our prelims examination. So ये दोनों terms बहुत important हैं. Both these terms multiple times in prelims. Please pay full attention here. What CDR is, what RDR is. Very easy, very extremely easy. But still, I don't know why many people make mistakes in such easy questions. First term is CDR, currency deposit ratio. CDR क्या है? As the name suggests, currency deposit ratio. CDR is simply equals to currency upon deposits. This is what CDR is. currency upon deposits, or if you want to write it in notional terms, CC upon DD. This is what currency deposit ratio is. Think about it as this. I have got 100 rupees with me. A person has 100 rupees with him. Out of this 100 rupees, I keep 30 rupees as currency and I keep 70 rupees as deposits. Total money is 100. Total money in circulation is 100. Let's say I possess 100 rupees with me. Out of 100 rupees, I keep 30 rupees with me in form of currency, 70 rupees with me in form of deposits. So therefore, CDR, currency deposit ratio, CDR would be how much? 30 upon 70. 30 upon 70. I hope that I expect that you are also able to visualize where would people generally make mistake. People would make mistake when CDR, उनसे पूछा जाएगा CDR क्या है? Some might say CDR is equal to 30 upon 100. 30 upon 100 CDR कर देंगे. Currency deposit ratio is currency divided by total money. This is where mistakes are made in prelims. Just read the number, read the ratio. Currency deposit, currency to deposits, currency divided by deposits. Currency in circulation upon deposits. 30 upon 70. Not 30 upon 100, not 30 upon 40, 30 upon 70, nothing. 30 upon 100, 70 upon 100, no, 30 upon 70. CDR, currency to deposit ratio, reflects the preference of people to keep money in form of currency, reflects the preference of people to keep money in form of currency. If CDR is high, agar currency deposit ratio zyada hai, what does it mean? That simply think about it. If CDR is high or I say CDR is increasing, what will it mean? Out of 100 rupees, earlier 30 was currency, 70 was deposit. And now people are preferring to keep 40 in currency and 60 as deposits. So अब CDR कितनी हो जाएगी? New CDR would be 40 upon 60. Numerator increased, denominator decreased. Preference of people to keep currency has increased. More amount of money is being kept in form of currency as compared to money in form of deposits. Reflects the preference of people to keep money in form of currency. I'll dictate it to you. Please don't write it down. मत लिखो भी, लिखने पे ध्यान मत रखो. I'll dictate all the things. Please don't write. Please see here. Preference of people to keep money in form of currency over deposits. This is what CDR is. Now, when I say preference, when I use the word preference, preference is a behavioral term. Preference is something which is how does a person, how does an individual chooses what is the best way to keep money in currency or deposits. Currency and deposits, we assume that they are almost equally liquid. लगभग equally liquid है. हम interchangeably use करते हैं in terms को in form of money supply. We say M1 is equal to CC plus DD, that is currency in circulation plus demand deposits. Why? Because we say that demand deposits are almost equally liquid. Just that demand deposits are in bank's pocket, but CC, currency in circulation, is in your pocket. ये बहुत बड़ा difference है. Difference between currency and demand deposits. Listen carefully, everybody. Difference between currency and deposits in bank is not that of liquidity. Liquidity is almost the same. We use the two terms interchangeably as far as liquidity is concerned. As far as return on this is concerned, they are almost equal. Currency के ऊपर तो you will earn zero interest. Demand deposits पे भी you will earn very low interest. It is up to the bank if it wants to give any interest or not. On your demand deposits, it is up to the bank whether they want to give interest or not. To attract customers, they might give interest which they usually do, but कोई obligation नहीं है उनके ऊपर उसके ऊपर interest देने का. To attract customers, they usually give interest. Interest which is paid on demand deposits is very low. Usually inflation से कम होता है, so your money actually deteriorates if it is kept in savings bank account. We have discussed this already. The point is, difference between currency and deposits is not in liquidity and is not much in interest which is earned. Currency पे zero है और demand deposit पे भी बहुत कम है, very less. Difference is in who has control over that money. Do you have control or do you share that control with the bank? If you put money in form of demand deposits in bank, now bank comes in picture. अब कुछ control, some control over that money is there in bank's hands. You obviously it is your money, you have control, but now some control, bank can do something with your money, as in it can lend that money to somebody. This is the key difference between currency and demand deposits. So it is an individual's preference whether they want to keep money in form of currency or in form of deposits. Therefore, this CDR is a purely behavioral parameter. ये पूछा हुआ सवाल है. This is the question that has been asked in prelims. CDR, which of the following is a purely behavioral parameter? CDR is considered as a purely behavioral parameter. I mean, question might not be which of the following is purely behavioral, but question might be which of the following is correct with respect to CDR. I think ये question था, which of the following is correct with respect to currency deposit ratio. Purely behavioral parameter. Purely behavioral parameter. Behavioral as in it completely depends on a person's behavior whether he wants to keep money in form of currency or in form of deposits. Purely behavioral. This is something which RBI doesn't control. RBI cannot tell how much money should I keep with me in form of currency or in form of deposits. RBI will like to influence. RBI influence कर सकता है इस चीज को. Banking system में influence. For example, banks increase interest rates that they pay on savings deposits. I have got my savings deposit. Let's say banks are now paying more interest rate. Earlier they were paying 2%. Now they say we'll pay 5%. Now my preference to keep money in form of deposits will increase or not? क्योंकि अब now there is a huge interest rate that I'm missing out on if I keep my money in form of currency. Now I will miss out on interest rate because now banks are giving me high interest rate. So banks may influence कर सकते हैं, but usually these are things that don't change much. Interest rates on your savings deposits will not change by much. Therefore, banks or RBI have only a very limited ability to influence this CDR. They try to, but they are limited in their ability. This is more of a behavioral parameter. It is an individual's preference to keep money in form of currency or in form of deposits. एक ऑप्शन उसमें ये भी था. Yes, it might be. I think I am right about the question that which of the following is correct with respect to CDR. CDR changes. CDR increases during the festive season. Increases during festive season. Very easy for you to understand and reach this conclusion. Increasing during festive season. Why? Because during festive season you will be spending more money and hence you would like to keep more money in form of currency rather than in form of deposits. You will need to spend money more frequently. You buy things, you spend money, you spend more money and spend it more frequently. Therefore, you will want to keep more money with you in form of currency. That is readily available money. एकदम से जो available हो, rather than keep it in form of deposits. So in festive season, usually it increases during the festive season. Why? People's preference to keep currency will increase as compared to people's preference to keep that money in form of deposits. So this is first ratio, key ratio that we have studied, which is CDR, currency deposit ratio. The next ratio is RDR, reserve deposit ratio. Second ratio is RDR. RDR, reserve deposit ratio. Reserve deposit ratio. What is reserve deposit ratio? As the name suggests, reserves upon deposits. Now, what are these reserves? This is the question. ये reserves का मतलब क्या है? Reserves we discussed in our money creation process by banking system. Credit creation process by banking system जो भी हमने discuss किया था. How does banking system create money? In that we discussed that bank receives some money in form of deposits, estimates how much money will be required by depositors and lends the remaining amount. Bank will receive some deposits and lend some money. Out of the deposits that it receives, it will set aside some money as reserves. Some money that the bank receives in form of deposits, it will set aside as reserve. Think about it. Bank is paying an interest on deposit and bank is earning an interest on money that it lends. On the deposits that bank gets, savings deposit जो हम बैंक में पैसा जमा कर रहे हैं, on these deposits bank pays us some interest which is called the savings bank rate of interest, which is usually very less. Let's say this interest rate is 3%. मान लेते हैं ये interest 3% है. On the money which bank lends, which we borrow from the bank, on the money which bank lends, bank earns an interest, and this interest is usually high. Let's say this interest is 8%. Usually 8% पे भी बहुत मुश्किल से मिलता है. I mean today it is easy because interest rates are such, but you get, let's say, loan at 8%. When the bank lends money to you, you get loan at 8%. So bank is paying 3% interest on its deposit, whereas it is earning 8% interest on its lendings. Bank is making profit here. Bank is making a profit of 5%. 100 rupees bank is taking from you and 100 rupees bank is lending. The money that it takes from you, it pays you 3 rupees. The money that it lends, it gets 8 rupees. So net bank earns 5%. 5% bank earn कर रहा है. This is bank's profit. This 5% is the difference between lending rate and bank's savings rate. This 5% is called spread. इसको बोलते हैं spread. I think ये तो 2-3 साल पहले ही क्वेश्चन पूछा था. Which of the following is the term used for, I mean something like that. The answer was spread. और या फिर spread को describe करना था. Again I'm forgetting the question verbatim, but you get the point. Spread क्या होता है banking terminology में? The word spread. Please don't write anybody. Please pay attention here. यहाँ पे देखो. These are sure short questions. If you don't pay attention here, I will dictate these things to you. These are sure short questions which are asked very frequently in the exam. I can't afford that you mark wrong answer to such questions. ठीक है? ये ऐसे क्वेश्चन है जो एकदम हलवा सिटिंग डक क्वेश्चन होते हैं. इनको कभी गलत नहीं करना. प्लीज इसलिए यहाँ पे पे अटेंशन. प्लीज डोंट राइट. पे अटेंशन. कंप्लीट अटेंशन हियर. What is spread? Spread is the difference between a bank's lending rate and the interest rate that banks pays on savings account. This is what bank pays and this is what bank earns. Bank is earning 8% and bank is paying to its depositors 3%. The difference between this and this is called spread. Difference between bank's lending rate and bank's savings rate. This is called spread. Now, if the bank makes a profit on its lending business, which it usually does, it will. Anybody would come into business to make profit. Bank business में क्यों है? बैंक ने ठेका थोड़ी ना ले रखा है आपके डिपॉजिट्स को सिक्योर रखने का. Why would somebody want to start a bank? Simply because I want to make profit by lending this money to somebody who is in need. So bank is there for profits, for business. If bank is earning a profit of 5% on its business, will bank want, listen very carefully, will the bank want to set aside some money or will the bank want to lend as much money as it can? बैंक ने डिपॉजिट के तौर पे बैंक हैज रिसीव्ड 100 रुपीज एज डिपॉजिट. on the money which it lends, it gets 8%. Bank will want to lend, tell me, bank क्या चाहेगा? That should it be able to lend entire 100 or should it be able to lend only 90? अगर 100 lend करेगा बैंक, if bank lends 100, then bank will earn 8 rupees, 8% of 100. If bank lends 90, अगर बैंक 90 रुपए ही lend कर पाता है, if bank is forced to not lend entire 100 and bank is able to lend only 90, then bank will earn 8% of 90. That means bank in this case will earn 7.2 rupees. यहां पे 8% of 90, 7.2. So in this case, bank will earn only 7.2, but by lending 100, it will earn 8. What will bank prefer? Bank क्या चाहेगा? Bank तो चाहेगा कि पूरा का पूरा 100 lend कर दें. This is what bank will prefer, to lend entire 100. But if bank lends entire 100, if the bank lends entire 100 rupees which it has received in form of deposits, then the risk that depositors are taking will be immense. If entire 100 rupees is lent by the bank, that means now bank will have 0 rupees with itself. 100 rupees depositor money tha, and all of that money has been lent. Therefore, bank now has 0 rupees. If bank has 0 rupees and now some depositor comes to the bank to withdraw money, bank क्या बोलेगा? Bank बोलेगा मैंने तो विजय माल्या को दे दिया पैसा. I have given my money to Vijay Mallya. When Vijay Mallya will return, then come to me for withdrawing your money. Loss of trust, complete loss of trust or not in the banking system. Nobody would then be willing to deposit their money in the bank if bank is not able to fulfill their demand. I am not demanding entire 100 which I have put in you. I am demanding only 10 rupees. You don't even have 10 rupees. You have lent entire amount of money. You are saying that I don't possess any money. I have lent entire money. This is what loss of confidence, loss of faith in the banking system looks like. If I know that bank doesn't have my money, I will tell others also कि your money also has been lent to Vijay Mallya और जो माल लेके चला गया. So everybody will come to know that whatever deposits they had with this bank have now been lent to somebody and bank possesses nothing. What will everybody do? Everybody will now, depositor 1, depositor 2, depositor 3, everybody will now rush to the bank to withdraw their money. Bank doesn't have any money, everybody is rushing to the bank to withdraw their money. Complete collapse of trust in the banking system, or let us say complete collapse of the financial system of the country. This situation should be prevented at all costs. This situation cannot arise wherein the trust in banking system collapses. Why has trust collapsed? Mind you, trust has collapsed because bank has lent all the money to a person and bank doesn't possess the money in order to fulfill the requirements of its depositors. That is why trust has collapsed. In order to maintain this trust, retain this trust, banks are required, number one, to not lend entire amount of money. Banks are required to not lend entire amount of money. जो 100 रुपए हैं, this entire amount of money cannot be lent. How much of it can be lent is dependent upon two things. How much of money out of this 100 can be lent is dependent upon two things. Number one, it is dependent upon bank's own discretion that how much does it assess will be needed by depositors. I'll repeat, please pay attention. How much money, how much can be lent, out of the total deposits you receive, how much can be lent depends upon, number one, bank's own discretion, discretion about how much money will be needed by depositors. Firstly, it depends upon bank's own discretion on how much money will be needed by depositor. But if it is left to bank's own discretion, bank तो अपने discretion लगा के बोलेगा कि zero money will be needed. I expect no person to come and withdraw money. I will lend all the money. Why? Because bank is making profit. तो बैंक अगर अपनी डिस्क्रेशन के भरोसे ही रहा, अगर बैंक को अपनी डिस्क्रेशन के भरोसे छोड़ दिया, if you leave bank on its own discretion, then bank will simply say that I will lend all the amount of money. Why? Because I am making profit. There is no need for me to keep any money. I don't expect any person to withdraw money from me. Hence, I am lending entire money. Therefore, it cannot be lent only on bank's discretion. First decision is bank's own. In order to maintain trust, ये बैंक का अपना decision है how much money it needs, how much money it needs to set aside to keep for deposits. The second is regulatory requirement of reserves. Second is reserves. Reserves. Second is the regulatory requirement of reserves. The regulatory authority, which is the central bank of a country, every country has a central bank, in our case RBI. The regulatory authority, that is RBI, in case of India, sets reserve requirements. RBI बोलेगा that there is a reserve requirement that every bank must follow. Meaning that every bank must at all times maintain certain percentage of their deposits in form of reserves. Regulatory requirement of reserves is the direction by the central bank or the regulator, of banking system, to the banks for maintenance of minimum amount of reserves at all times. The direction by the regulatory authority, the regulator of banking system, to the banks for maintenance of minimum amount of reserves at all times. This is the second thing on which how much money can be lent depends upon. Bank receives 100 rupees. Please understand, the tendency of bank will be to lend entire 100 if it is left only to bank's discretion. Therefore, in order to prevent this scene at the bank wherein the trust of depositors in the banking system collapses, in order to prevent this, the regulator of the banking system gives regulatory direction to the banking system that they have to maintain some proportion of deposits as reserves at all times. I'll repeat, the regulator of the banking system, that is RBI, gives direction to the banks that they have to maintain some proportion of their deposits as reserves at all times. This proportion is called reserve deposit ratio. Reserves as a percentage of deposits. How much money out of deposits has to be set aside as reserves? Bank receives 100 rupees as reserves. RBI says that reserve deposit ratio should be 10%. Meaning what? That reserves upon deposits is equals to 10%. That is, of deposits is equals to 100. If deposits are equal to 100 rupees, reserve is equals to 10 rupees. 10 rupees of money has to be set aside in form of reserve by the banks. Why? In order to maintain trust in the banking system, in order to ensure that at all times banks have some money with them in order to meet the demand of depositors. ये जो depositors की demand है, in order to meet their demands, some amount of money must always be kept with the bank in form of reserves. अगर डिमांड आती है, if depositors demand, then bank must not fail to fulfill its commitments. Bank must always be able to meet the demand of its depositor. क्योंकि पैसा है किसका? पैसा बैंक का नहीं है. Money which is being lent by the bank is not actually bank's money. It is depositors' money. Therefore, bank has a requirement, regulatory requirement, that bank must set aside some proportion of money in form of reserves before lending. कुछ money बैंक को reserves के form में set aside करना पड़ेगा. This is called reserve system, reserves of the banking system. This ratio is called reserve deposit ratio, RDR. RDR is not a behavioral parameter. It is not dependent upon bank's discretion to set aside reserves of its own choice. बैंक के ऊपर नहीं है कि मुझे 5% रखने, मुझे 10% रखने, मुझे 15% रखने. It is not bank's discretion. This reserve deposit ratio is set by RBI, or if you are talking of some other country, then whatever the central bank in that country is. Reserve deposit ratio is set by the central bank, the banking regulator. It sets how much amount of money will have to be necessarily kept as reserves by the bank out of the deposits. Why is important? Why? In order to prevent this situation of collapse in trust in banking system. This situation also has a name. The name of this situation, of this collapsing trust in the banking system, where people go to the banks to withdraw money and they don't find any money in the bank, this situation is called bank run. इसको बोलते हैं bank run. Please don't write. Look here. Bank run. Bank run क्या है? Bank run is the situation in which people go to the bank to withdraw their money, but banks do not have any money. Therefore, everybody starts rushing. जैसे आपने देखा होगा लास्ट ईयर येस बैंक के केस में हुआ, उससे पहले पंजाब एंड महाराष्ट्र कोऑपरेटिव बैंक के केस में हुआ. People were queuing up outside those banks to withdraw money, whereas the bank did not have any money, or there were limits to how much money can be withdrawn by a person kept in those banks. Led to collapse in trust in those banks. Yes Bank के पास पैसा नहीं था because Yes Bank has deposited or given all its money to those people who ran away with that money or were unable to return money to Yes Bank. Same case with Punjab and Maharashtra Cooperative Bank. So banks lend money. Whose money was it? Depositors' money. You set aside some money. Let's say you have set aside 10 rupees here. 10 rupees is just 10% of your deposits. If I start to demand 100 rupees, where will this money come from? So RBI sets reserves limit thinking normal conditions. कि normally bank should always possess this much money. 10 रुपए तो बैंक के पास होने ही चाहिए. Bank should always possess 10 rupees so that bank can give this money to the depositor. But if bank is indulged in bad lending practices, if it lends to people like, let's say, Vijay Mallya, in that case, this depositor will now lose trust in banking system and will want to withdraw entire 100 rupees at once, even though I may not need it. जो पंजाब एंड महाराष्ट्र बैंक के बाहर जो लोग खड़े थे या फिर जो येस बैंक के बाहर लोग खड़े थे, they did not need their money at that point in time. Why were they standing there? Because of panic, because of fear, because they thought that their money is now gone. They will now not receive their money back. So everybody was standing there, was running towards the bank to withdraw their money. Why? Because now they felt that the bank has collapsed and they will not get their money back. This situation is called bank run. इसको बोलते हैं bank run. I hope this point is clear. What bank run is and what reserve deposit ratio is. RDR, reserve deposit ratio and currency deposit ratio, two ratios we have discussed. RDR and CDR. Now let's quickly have a look at that money creation process by the banking system. फटाफट उस चीज को देख लेते हैं. Money creation process by the banking system. Let's quickly look at that. So step one, we are looking at, everybody please pay attention, money creation by banking system, ठीक है. We are looking at this. So step one, RBI injects M0, that is high powered money or seed money, high powered money. How does RBI inject? Let's say RBI gives 1000 rupees to P1, person 1, and RBI buys gold in return. So an asset has been purchased and 1000 rupees ka asset hai, 1000 rupees are now in the economy with person 1. Let's say this person 1 was a jeweler, so RBI has given this 1000 rupees to person 1 and buys gold from it. By the way, one more thing, RBI does not deal with some random person directly. RBI doesn't deal with everybody directly. RBI will not deal with me or you directly. There are a few specific people with which RBI deals with directly, and then we will deal with them if we want to deal. RBI will not buy gold from, let's say, Kalyanji Jewelers or jitne sare Gitanjali Jewelers. RBI will not buy gold from them. RBI deals with specific designated people in the market. When it buys bonds, it can buy bonds from general public. If it has to buy bonds, if it has to sell bonds, it can buy bonds from general public. But usually it does not deal with general public or some anonymous person. RBI deals with specific people, and those people are called primary dealers. उनको बोलते हैं primary dealers. There is a name for DEA, dealers, primary dealers. The people with which RBI directly deals with. They are part of the economy, but RBI doesn't deal with everybody. RBI deals with specific people. कुछ designated people हैं. जैसे RBI will deal with SBI, with PNB, with HDFC. RBI will not deal with, let's say, me, who is a customer of Axis Bank or PNB or SBI. RBI will not deal with me. RBI will deal directly with the bank. Okay? So RBI will, let's say, buy gold from somebody and inject 1000 rupees into the economy. Let's say this person is some primary dealer, some big hotshot person. RBI buys gold, and now 1000 rupees is there in the economy. Okay? So this is step one. RBI injects M0. Fine. Okay. Let's move on to step two. यहाँ तक हमने देखा है. Step two. Money creation by banking system. By banking system. How will banking system create money now? Let's look at this now. P1, let us say P1, let us assume CDR, that is currency upon deposits, to be 100%. 100% meaning, that is, let us assume it to be 1. That is, out of every 100 rupees, 50 rupees is kept as currency and 50 rupees is kept as deposit. So 50 upon 50 becomes 100%. So jitna bhi rupya hai, out of the total amount of money a person has, whenever I receive 100 rupees, I will keep 50 rupees as cash and 50 rupees I will deposit in the bank as deposit. So 50 cash, 50 deposit. Okay? Let's assume CDR of 50, 100%. Let us assume RDR, reserve deposit ratio, of 10%. RDR of 10% meaning, that is, if bank receives 100 rupees, let me write it here, bank receives 100 rupees, 10 will be kept as reserves and remaining 90 will be lent. 100 rupees that bank receives, 10 will be kept as reserve, so 10% becomes your reserve deposit ratio, 10 upon 100. How much money is left? 90. 90 is left. 90 will be lent. Bank पूरा का पूरा 90 lend कर देगा. 100 rupees is received by the bank. 10 is kept as reserves and 90 is lent by the bank. ठीक है? Reserve deposit ratio in action, currency deposit ratio in action. Out of every 100 rupees that a person has, he or she will keep 50 rupees in form of currency and 50 rupees will be deposited in the bank. Out of every 100 rupees that the bank receives, bank is required to set aside 10 rupees. Remaining 90 rupees, bank is free to lend to anybody. So let's assume this. Now let's see. Person 1, this primary dealer person 1. Person 1 has 1000 rupees. इसके पास 1000 rupees है. Out of this 1000, he will keep in form of currency 500 and he will keep in form of deposits 500. 500 rupees in form of deposit, 500 rupees in form of currency. Let us see. This deposit will be done in a bank. This deposit will be done in a bank. Bank will receive 500. Out of 500, bank will set aside 50, 10%. Remaining amount 450 is lent by the banking system. This amount 450 is lent to person 2. Person 2 को 450 rupees दिए गए हैं. Person 2 spends these 450 rupees. Spends these 450 rupees on person 3. Person 2 has borrowed this money from the bank and person 2 spends this money on person 3. Person 3 के पास अब कितने पैसे आए? Person 3 receives 450 rupees. 450 rupees में से 50% he will keep as currency, that is cash, and 50% he will deposit in the money in the bank in form of deposit. So 450 का आधा कितना हुआ? 225 he'll keep in form of currency and 225 he'll keep in form of deposit. This is currency, this is deposits. He'll deposit this money back in the bank. 225 rupees will be deposited back in the bank. Deposit in the bank. Bank will receive 225. Out of this, 10% will be kept as reserves and remaining 90% will be lent. Reserves कितना है? Reserve is 10% of 225. Let's say, let me use it. Let me be a little bit liberal in ratios. So 22.5 rupees bank will keep as reserves. So let me keep 25 rupees as reserve. 25 रुपए लगे. 10%, 22.5. Remaining would be 202 rupees 50 paise. So 25 rupees is kept as reserves and lent. The bank lends. Remaining 200 rupees. 200 रुपए बैंक ने lend कर दिए. This money 200 rupees is lent to person 4 who spends it on person 5. Again speak up. Person 5, currency deposit ratio CDR. He will keep 50% of this. 100 rupees he will keep in form of currency and 100 rupees will be kept in the bank in form of deposits. 100 rupees in form of deposits. Bank will set aside 10 rupees. This money will go to the bank. Bank will set aside reserves 10 rupees. Lend 90. Out of 90 will be lent to somebody, spent on somebody. That person will keep 45 rupees as cash and deposit 45 rupees in the bank. Bank will set aside 4.5 rupees, 10% of that, and lend 41.5 rupees, so on and so forth. This process keeps on going. I hope all of you have observed now. I hope all of you have now observed that in every successive stage, the amount of money which is there with the bank keeps on decreasing. Earlier, the bank had 1000 rupees. Earlier, the bank received 500 rupees. Then it lent 450 rupees. Then it lent 225 rupees. Then it lends 200 rupees. Then it lends 100 rupees. So every stage, the amount of money that the bank lends keep on decreasing. Let's calculate the total money supply. Total money supply will be CC plus DD. currency in circulation plus deposits कितना होगा? 1000 rupees initially were included in the economy, were injected into the economy, which were in form of CC plus DD. 500 rupees currency, 500 rupees deposit. So initial is 500 plus 500. 500 in form of cash, 500 in form of deposits. In the next stage, stage number 2, 50 has been removed from circulation because they are in form of reserves. 450 is lent, is spent. 225 in form of currency, 225 in form of deposits. 225 plus 225. जो मैं ब्रैकेट में लिख रहा हूं A plus B, this is currency plus deposits. So 450 is in form of 225 cash plus 225 deposits. In next stage, 225 is deposited, 25 goes out in form of reserves, 200 is lent, 200 is spent, and it is in form of 100 cash plus 100 deposits. 100 plus 100, 100 currency plus 100 deposits. Next stage pe 10 rupees is removed in form of reserves, 90 rupees is lent, 90 rupees will be spent, 45 in form of currency, 45 in form of deposits. 45 plus 45 plus so on so forth. First stage, second stage or second round, third round, fourth round, fifth round, sixth round, seventh round, so on so forth. The number keeps on decreasing from 1000 in first stage to 450 in second to 200 in third to 90 in fourth. You see that the drop is so sharp. 1000 first stage में, next stage में 450, next stage में 200, next stage में 90, next stage में और कम. So the drop is very sharp and eventually this process is going to come to a halt. Mathematically what happens is it becomes a decreasing geometric progression. It becomes a decreasing GP, geometric progression, Now I will be forced to tell you what geometric progression is. I expected everybody to know what geometric progression is. I usually expect, but once it happened in my class that has opened my eyes subsequently. A student came to me and said, sir, I have mathematics as optional. Uska maths optional tha. He was not, that student was not some random person. He had maths as optional and he said, sir, I don't know what geometric progression is. तो मेरी आंखें खुल गई. फिर मैंने कहा ठीक है, अब से मैं I will not take this risk to assume that everybody knows what geometric progression is. I mean, I usually assume that many people might not know, but उसके बाद से और ज्यादा अच्छा से मेरे को पता चला कि हाँ, yes, this might also happen. Geometric progression is, all of you might remember arithmetic progression in your school days, 10th class में. Arithmetic progression AP is of this form. The first term is A, the second term is, first term is A, the second term is A plus D difference, the third term is A plus 2D, the third term is A plus 3D. ये एक arithmetic progression है. For example, let us assume A is equals to 1, D is equals to 2. तो first term है 2, second term है 3, A plus D, third term है 1 plus 2 times 3, 7, fourth term है 1 plus 3 times 3, 10. So हर बार 3 add होता जा रहा है. In every subsequent term, second term 4 है, sorry यार, second term is 4. हर बार 3 add हो रहा है. Next term is always 3 greater than the first term. 1, 4, 7, 10, 13, 17, 20, 23, so on and so forth. So every term is 3 greater than the first term. This is called an arithmetic progression. एक arithmetic progression का sum जो होता है, sum of numbers in an AP, sum of numbers in an AP, there is a defined formula of what is that sum. All of us have studied this in class 9th. Class 9th and 10th में जब mathematics पढ़ते हैं, we have studied this in class 9th what arithmetic progression is. We have known what sum of AP is. I'll assume that we have forgotten it because we have not used it. उसके बाद हमने कभी use नहीं किया, इसलिए हम भूल चुके होंगे, कोई बात नहीं. There is a standard sum for AP. I'm not going to tell you what that standard sum is. I don't want to complicate it further. बहुत ही आसान चीज होती है, n अपॉन 2 a plus l. L is the last term, a is the first term, n upon 2, n is the total number of terms. So again, don't bother with it. This is sum of AP. ये है अरिथमेटिक प्रोग्रेशन. एक ज्योमेट्रिक प्रोग्रेशन क्या होती है? ज्योमेट्रिक प्रोग्रेशन. I hope some of you can now sympathize with me as well. ठीक है? Some of you can sympathize with the profession of teaching. Geometric progression क्या होती है? Geometric progression is of the general form a times r, a times r square, a times r cube, and so on and so forth. Every subsequent term is r times multiple of the previous term. जैसे a is equals to मान लेते हैं 1 और a is equals to मान लेते हैं 2 और थोड़ी डिफिकल्ट समझने के लिए, एंड r को मान लेते हैं 3. Ratio, r is ratio, simply call it as ratio. So first term would be, let's say of this geometric progression, first term would be 2, second term would be 2 times 3, that is 6, third term would be 2 times 3 square, that is 9, 18, third term would be 2 times 3 cube, that is 27, 54, so on so forth. So 2, 6, 18, 54, so on so forth. This is a geometric progression. Every subsequent term is 3 times the previous term. 6 is 3 times 2, 18 is 3 times 6, 54 is 3 times 18. The next term would be 162, that is 3 times 54. So इस तरीके से सारी terms जाती जा रही हैं आगे. So every subsequent term is a multiple of the previous term. This is called geometric progression. There is a special type of geometric progression which is called as a decreasing GP. Decreasing geometric progression. Decreasing geometric progression is when r is less than 1. For example, r is equals to 1 upon 3. अगर r ratio 1 upon 3 है तो if r is 1 upon 3, then what will happen? First term is 2, second term is 1 by 3 times 2, 2 upon 3. Third term is 1 upon 3 times 2 upon 3, that is 2 upon 9. Fourth term is 1 upon 3 times previous term, 2 upon 27. So every term is, again, जैसे geometric progression है, every term is r times, every subsequent term is r times the previous term. In this also, every subsequent term is r times the previous term. Just that in this case, r is less than 1. r 1 upon 3 है, 1 से छोटा है. Important thing is, in this geometric progression, each subsequent term is smaller than the previous one. In this GP, each subsequent term was bigger than the previous one. 2, 6, 18, 54, so on and so forth. In this case, 2 upon 3, 2 upon 9. 2 upon 9 is smaller than 2 upon 3. 2 upon 27, smaller than 2 upon 9. So every subsequent term is smaller than previous term. So this becomes a decreasing GP. If I ask you to visualize this decreasing GP, you will be able to see कि इसके बाद आएगा number 2 upon 81, which is even smaller than this. बहुत ही छोटा number है 2 upon 81. इसके बाद number आएगा 2 upon 243, which is very very small number. Next number would be 2 upon 729, again extremely small number. So you see that numbers keep on getting very 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 small after some point. So small that if I ask you कि ये अगर infinite तक चलता रहे, if this process of finding next term keeps on going to the infinity, then after let's say first 10 terms, जो बाद की terms होंगी infinity तक, वो तो बिल्कुल भी उनमें कुछ दम ही नहीं होगा. That would be 0.000001, 0.000001, इस टाइप से इतनी छोटी छोटी terms होगी, negligible terms. The sum of a decreasing GP, of an infinite decreasing GP, sum of an infinite decreasing GP is finite, and the sum is a upon 1 minus r. ये sum होता है sum of a decreasing GP. Sum of a decreasing GP is equals to a upon 1 minus r. This is the sum. In this case, the sum would be 2 upon 1 minus 1 upon 3, that is 2 upon 2 upon 3, मतलब 3. 2 upon 2 upon 3, 2 से 2, 3 ऊपर 3. This would be the sum of this GP. पहली sum 2, अगली sum, अगली बाकी सारी terms का sum जो है मिला के 1 होगा. So this is going to be sum of this infinite GP, geometric progression 3. Sum of a decreasing GP is finite given by the formula A upon 1 minus R. ठीक है. Now coming back to economics. This becomes this total money supply. If you add this total money supply being currency in circulation plus demand deposits, if you add this, if you look at the subsequent terms, they also become a decreasing GP. ये भी एक decreasing GP के form में आ जाते हैं. Let's say initial amount of money was 1000 and let's assume that 10% is the reserve deposit ratio. 10% is RDR. Let us assume 10% is RDR. So in first round money would be 1000. In second round money would be 10% less than this, that is 900. In next round it would be 10% less than this, that is इसमें से 90 minus करो, so 810. In next round it would be 10% less than this, reduce 81 from this, that is 729, so on so forth. As you can see, each number is 10% less, 10% less, that is each subsequent number is 9 upon 10 times previous number. तो पहला number है A which is equals to 1000. Next number is A times R which is equals to R बराबर 90% of the first number. 900 of 90% of 1000, 90% of 900, 90% of 810, 90% of 729. So each subsequent number is 9/10 of the previous number. So first number is 1000, second number is 900, that is 1000 multiplied by 9 upon 10. Second number is A times R square, that is 900 multiplied by 9 upon 10, which is again equals to 810, so on so forth. As you can see, in this case R जो ratio है that is less than 1, 9 upon 10 है, 1 से छोटा है. Therefore, this becomes a converging, a finite geometric progression. This becomes an example of a finite geometric progression. जिसका sum किसके बराबर है? इसका sum है बराबर A upon 1 minus R. That is A first term 1000 divided by 1 minus R 9 upon 10. That is 1000 upon 1 upon 10 which is equals to 10,000, 10,000. इस geometric progression का the sum of this geometric progression is 10,000. We have assumed the ratio, the reserve deposit ratio to be 10%. The sum of this geometric progression is 10,000. That means the total amount of money supply after all rounds of money creation by the banking system would be 10,000. 10,000 होगा. Total amount of money supply after all round of money creation by the banking system is going to be 10,000, which is derived from this 10% of RDR. ठीक है? I will not be explaining this thing again. I've explained this out of a courtesy that some people might not be comfortable when you read it from NCERT for the first time, because NCERT में इस चीज को money creation process को I think they could have explained better in NCERT, because they have explained it in a manner in which they assume that people will understand when they read it for the first time. I think now with the explanation that I have given, now you will be able to understand it better. I think अब कोई डाउट नहीं रहना चाहिए, लेकिन अगर किसी को मैथमेटिकल पार्ट में डाउट है वो मैं दोबारा नहीं बताऊंगा. I will not tell this mathematical part again. That was simply to tell you that what is the sum of this total amount of money supply in the economy. 10,000 rupees, 1,000 rupees was initial M0. 10,000 rupees is the final amount of money supplied in the economy, which is 10 times the initial amount of money. Money supplied in the economy, that is 10,000, is equals to 10 times 1,000 M0. This 10 is your money multiplier, this 1,000 is your M1. If you look closely, this money multiplier is equals to 1 upon R, 1 upon reserve deposit ratio. Reserve deposit ratio was 10%. This is 1 upon R. 10 is money multiplier 1 upon R. वी हैव अज्यूम्ड इन दिस, ये वाला जो एग्जांपल था, इन दिस आई हैव अज्यूम्ड करेंसी डिपॉजिट रेशियो वाला मैंने इसमें केस नहीं लिया है. इफ वी टेक करेंसी डिपॉजिट देन इट रिड्यूसेस बाय इवन अ ग्रेटर अमाउंट. जब हम सीडीआर लेते हैं तो फर्स्ट केस में क्या देखा था हमने, 500 से 450 के बाद नेक्स्ट 400, नेक्स्ट वाज 200. सो सीडीआर, व्हेन यू टेक करेंसी इन सर्कुलेशन इन अकाउंट देन मनी रिड्यूसेस बाय इवन अ ग्रेटर अमाउंट. यहां पे हमने करेंसी नहीं, वी हैव अज्यूम्ड ऑल मनी इज कमिंग बैक टू द बैंकिंग सिस्टम. सो मनी मल्टीप्लायर इज ऑल्सो रिप्रेजेंटेड एज 1/r. ठीक है. So this is about money creation by the banking system. This is how banking system creates money in the economy. I hope this is clear to you. I will dictate this now. Please start writing. If there are any questions that remain, please take them up after I dictate. अभी अगर किसी के दिमाग में कोई डाउट रह गया है, अभी मत पूछो. Please hold your questions. Please hold your doubts. I will dictate this entire thing which not technical part. I will dictate most of this, whatever we have discussed since last class. It will take us about अभी 6:30 हो रहा है ना, 7 बजे तक डिक्टेट करते हैं, आधे घंटे तक डिक्टेट करते हैं ब्रेक से पहले. देन आई विल गिव यू ब्रेक, उसके बाद हम नेक्स्ट चीज स्टार्ट करेंगे. सो प्लीज स्टार्ट राइटिंग. प्लीज गिव हेडिंग मनी सप्लाई. प्लीज होल्ड ऑन टू योर क्वेश्चंस इफ देयर आर एनी. मैथमेटिकल पार्ट मैं नहीं बताऊंगा, आई विल नॉट एक्सप्लेन इट अगेन. दैट इज not part of the syllabus, that is not part of my requirement, but because it is given in NCERT, that is why I have explained. Other any conceptual aspect, I will certainly, I am ready to explain as many questions as you have. But पहले लिख लेते हैं. प्लीज अभी क्वेश्चन मत पूछना, अगर पूछा है तो प्लीज डिलीट कर दो. प्लीज डिलीट. इफ यू हैव आस्क्ड द क्वेश्चन, प्लीज वेट फॉर मी टू डिक्टेट. If after dictation anything is not clear, then please ask. You know, and many people get frustrated also. You know, I will answer all your questions, so don't worry about that. उसके बारे में कोई चिंता मत करो. I'll answer all questions. Please give heading money supply. Please give heading money supply. Write down. Money supply is a determined number. Money supply is a determined number. Dash लगाओ, dash. RBI sets it. RBI sets it based on what it thinks. RBI sets it based on what it thinks is required in the economy. Based on what it thinks is required in the economy. Full stop. RBI has certain tools. RBI has certain tools to vary this money supply. RBI has certain tools to vary this money supply. Full stop. Next paragraph में write down. Money supply is measured. Money supply is measured by seeing. Money supply is measured by seeing the amount of money, circulating in the economy. Money supply is measured by seeing the amount of money circulating in the economy. Full stop. There are several measures. कॉमा ब्रैकेट में लिखो. देयर आर सेवरल मेजर्स. ब्रैकेट में रेफर द क्लास हैंडआउट ऑफ मनी सप्लाई. रेफर द क्लास हैंडआउट फॉर मनी सप्लाई फॉर डिटेल्स. इसको ब्रैकेट में लिखो. रेफर द क्लास हैंडआउट ऑफ मनी सप्लाई फॉर डिटेल्स. आई थिंक, सुनो एक मिनट, ब्रैकेट के बाद लिखवाता हूं. आई डिक्टेट टू यू, जितना सब लिखवाऊंगा. देयर इज अ हैंडआउट which is going to be uploaded. I gave it to the coordinator about 1 hour before the class. I don't think so it would have been uploaded by now. It would be uploaded today. By today it would be uploaded. एक handout है, that means एक document है, word file है, and there are 3 links. There are 3 links that I have shared. Please go through those 3 links. Please go through those 3 links when the class ends today. I'll leave the class a little bit early. चिंता मत करो. I'll leave the class 5 minutes or 10 minutes early. Please use those 5-10 minutes जो मम्मी आवाज लगाएंगी ना कि कुछ कहीं जाना है या कुछ करना है. Use those 5-10 minutes to read those articles. ठीक है? What I'll do is break के दौरान when I give at the time when I give the break, I will paste those articles in your chat portal. ठीक है, आपकी चैट पोर्टल में उनको पेस्ट कर दूंगा मैं तीनों आर्टिकल्स को. दे विल बी अपलोडेड एज पार्ट ऑफ द सिनॉप्सिस ऑन योर प्लेटफॉर्म एज वेल. आई विल पेस्ट दोज 3 आर्टिकल्स एज पार्ट ऑफ चैट इन योर चैट पोर्टल. ये जो आपका स्टूडेंट क्वेरी पोर्टल है, रिस्पॉन्स पोर्टल जो भी है, इसके अंदर आई विल पेस्ट देम. प्लीज हैव अ लुक एट दोज 3 आर्टिकल्स आफ्टर द क्लास. ठीक है, आई विल लीव द क्लास 10 मिनट्स अर्ली, डोंट वरी, लेकिन आज ही पढ़ना उन आर्टिकल्स को. प्लीज डू नॉट लीव इट फॉर आफ्टरवर्ड्स. रात को पढ़ लूंगा, सोने से पहले पढ़ लूंगा, मोबाइल में पढ़ लूंगा. आई प्रॉमिस आई विल लीव द क्लास अर्ली जस्ट फॉर द सेक ऑफ यू रीडिंग दोज आर्टिकल्स, कि आप 8 बजे तक एटलीस्ट एंगेज रहो उस चीज के अंदर. ठीक है, सो प्लीज रीड दोज आर्टिकल्स. प्लस देयर इज अ डॉक्यूमेंट, रीड इट आफ्टरवर्ड्स. उस डॉक्यूमेंट को बाद में पढ़ना, इन विच ऑल डिटेल्स रिगार्डिंग मेजर्स ऑफ मनी सप्लाई आर देयर. फाइन, चलो अब लिखो. ब्रैकेट क्लोज करो, ब्रैकेट क्लोज, राइट डाउन. ब्रैकेट क्लोज के बाद कॉमा, write down, write down. The following are the common measures of money supply. Full stop के बाद the following are the common measures of money supply. Following are the common measures of money supply. First, M1 is equals to CC plus DD. We'll write afterwards क्या है M1, M2, CC, DD क्या है. We'll write after. First write M1 is equals to CC plus DD. Next line में write down M2 is equals to M1 plus post office demand deposits. M2 is equals to M1 plus post office demand deposits. M3 is equals to M1 plus time deposits with banks. M1 plus time deposits with banks. M4 is equals to M3 plus other deposits with post offices. M3 plus deposits with post offices. Other word नहीं. M3 plus deposits with post offices. नीचे स्टार लगा के लिखो, मार्क स्टार मार्क एट राइट. सीसी इज इक्वल्स टू करेंसी इन सर्कुलेशन. सीसी इज इक्वल्स टू करेंसी इन सर्कुलेशन एंड डीडी इज इक्वल्स टू डिमांड डिपॉजिट्स विद बैंक. डीडी इज इक्वल्स टू नेट डिमांड डिपॉजिट्स विद बैंक. नेट डिमांड, यूज द वर्ड नेट. दिस इज समथिंग आई was asked in question last class. I did not explain it last time. डिक्टेट कर देता हूं, डिक्टेट करने के बाद कोई डाउट नहीं बचेगा उसमें. राइट डाउन. डीडी इज इक्वल टू नेट डिमांड डिपॉजिट्स विद बैंक. राइट डाउन. नेक्स्ट स्टार लगाओ. नेक्स्ट लाइन में मार्क अ स्टार मार्क एंड राइट डाउन नेट डिपॉजिट्स. नेट डिपॉजिट्स mean that only the deposits of public with the banks. Net deposits mean that only the deposits of public with the banks are counted. Comma. Banks deposit. Bank S के बाद apostrophe. Banks apostrophe. Banks deposits प्लूरल में अपोस्ट्रोफी कैसे लगाते हैं? बैंक्स के बाद अपोस्ट्रोफी. बैंक्स डिपॉजिट्स विद अदर बैंक्स. बैंक्स डिपॉजिट, बैंक्स डिपॉजिट विद अदर बैंक्स are not counted while calculating net deposits. ठीक है, फुल स्टॉप. नेक्स्ट लाइन में लिखो, मनी क्रिएशन is a two-stage process. Money creation is a two-stage process. First, one and two करके लिखेंगे, 1-2 लाइन्स में. First, money is created by RBI. Second, that created money is amplified by the banking system. Give next subheading, money creation by RBI. Give heading, money creation by RBI. Write down. RBI is the sole authority. Of creating new money. RBI is the sole authority of creating new money by way of printing new currency, and injecting it into economy, full stop. RBI may also create money. Digitally. That is without actual printing of currency. By simply crediting money digitally, in the account of somebody from whom it buys assets from. By crediting money digitally in the account of somebody it buys assets from. Full stop. Next paragraph में write down. Printing of money is just the first step. Full stop. Money is injected in the economy. Money is injected into the economy by way of RBI buying assets, like gold, government bonds, foreign currency assets, etc. By way of RBI buying assets like gold, comma government bonds, comma foreign currency assets, etc. Full stop. Next line. The assets that RBI buys, the assets that RBI buys are written on the asset side. The assets that RBI buys are written on the asset side of RBI's balance sheet, comma, whereas currency which it gives in return, acts as a promise by the RBI governor, and therefore is recorded as part of liabilities. Full stop. RBI's act of injecting currency, is accompanied by buying assets, and giving a promise written on the currency note, and therefore it instills legitimacy to RBI's operations. Full stop. Next paragraph में give a subheading in this, RBI's transfers to the government. Give a subheading, RBI's transfers to the government. Write down. The assets of RBI are interest earning. As well as appreciating in nature. The assets of RBI are interest earning as well as appreciating in nature. Full stop. Whereas liabilities are either zero cost, ब्रैकेट में लिखो ऑन करेंसी, लाइबिलिटीज आर आइदर जीरो कॉस्ट, ब्रैकेट में करेंसी, ब्रैकेट क्लोज, कॉमा, और वेरी लो कॉस्ट, ब्रैकेट में लिखो बोरोइंग बाय आरबीआई फ्रॉम बैंक्स और गवर्नमेंट, बोरोइंग बाय आरबीआई फ्रॉम बैंक्स और गवर्नमेंट, कॉमा, डिपॉजिट्स विद आरबीआई ऑफ बैंक्स और गवर्नमेंट, डिपॉजिट्स विद आरबीआई ऑफ बैंक्स और गवर्नमेंट, ब्रैकेट क्लोज. Therefore, RBI earns an income. Therefore, RBI earns an income by virtue of its operations. RBI earned an income by virtue of its income. Write down. The income of RBI. The income of RBI is also sometimes referred to as. The income of RBI is also sometimes referred to as seigniorage. Seigniorage. I had to Google the spelling. I'll write down the spelling here. Pardon my French. आप भी Google कर सकते हो. मैं भी स्क्रीन पे देख के लिख रहा हूँ. I don't know the spelling. SEIGNIORAGE. Seigniorage. Pardon my French if I am not able to pronounce or write it down properly. SEIGNIORAGE. Seigniorage. The income of RBI is sometimes referred to as seigniorage. Write down. It is earned. It is earned because RBI performs. It is earned because RBI performs the function of satisfying. It is earned because RBI performs the function of satisfying people's requirement to carry out transactions conveniently. People's requirement to carry out transactions conveniently in form of by using money. By using money. Full stop. The costs of RBI are only incurred. The costs of RBI are only incurred in printing the currency, and its own operational costs. In printing the currency and its own operational costs. Dash लगा के लिखो, dash लगाओ. For example, from a currency note that essentially costs 2.5 rupees to print. From a currency note that essentially costs 2.5 rupees to print, RBI is able to buy assets of 2000 rupees. Full stop. The difference is not the income. This is an important point. The difference is not the income. Rather, the earnings on this asset, and zero costs on liabilities. The earnings on the asset and zero cost on liabilities is the actual income. Earnings on the asset and zero cost on liabilities is the actual income. Full stop. Out of this income, RBI sets aside its expenses. RBI sets aside its expenses and also provisions for how much money it may need, and also provisions for how much money it may need to carry out its operations. To carry out its operations full stop. To carry out, also provision to how much money it may need to carry out its operation, full stop. Full stop. Yes. The remaining amount is RBI's surplus, and is transferred to the government, in toto. In toto का मतलब in total. It is a standard Latin word, in toto. Total, in totality, in toto, in totality. Full stop. Presently, the assessment of how much money will RBI need. Presently, the assessment of how much money will RBI need to carry out its operations. Is assessed using the economic capital framework. As proposed by the Bimal Jalan Committee. Full stop. Next heading लिखो, money creation by the banking system. 5 more minutes, 5 minutes में इसको हम लिख लेंगे, then we'll give break. Money creation by the banking system. Write down. The banking system creates more money from what? The banking system creates more money from what has initially been seeded. More money from what has initially been seeded by RBI into the economy. Full stop. This money creation takes place by virtue of the deposit taking, and lending that money, back to the economy by the banks. Full stop. The banks are required to set aside some proportion of their deposits. The banks are required to set aside some proportion of their deposits in form of reserves, comma, and then they lend the remaining money, in the economy. Full stop. The money which is lent come back to the bank in form of deposit. The money which is lent comes back to the bank in form of deposits, and therefore total deposits with the banks go up, and therefore total deposits with the banks go up, comma, leading to increase in supply of money, Full stop. This process continues ad infinitum. This process continues ad infinitum. This process continues ad infinitum. Albeit, however, with a decreasing amount of money, that bank receives in form of deposits after every round of lending. Full stop. Therefore, this process eventually ends. And finally, the total deposits with the banks go up by a multiple of the initial amount of money injected in the economy by RBI. Write down money supply. Next line में लिखना money supply, comma M1 is equals to small m times M0. Write down this in next line and make it in a box. Put it in a box. Money supply, comma M1 is equals to M small m times m0. Next line में write down m1 is equals to cc plus dd, cc plus dd. M is equals to money multiplier, and m0 is equals to high powered money, Write down m1 is equals to m dot m0, m1 is equal to cc plus dd, m is equals to money multiplier, small m is equals to money multiplier, m0 is equals to high powered money. ब्रैकेट में राइट डाउन स्टार लगा के रेफर टू द मैथमेटिकल मॉडल फ्रॉम एनसीईआरटी और फ्रॉम योर प्रिंटेड मटेरियल. राइट डाउन, प्लीज राइट दिस थिंग डाउन. रेफर टू द मैथमेटिकल मॉडल और मैथमेटिकल एक्सप्लेनेशन, रेफर टू द मैथमेटिकल एक्सप्लेनेशन फ्रॉम एनसीईआरटी. 3 more things we have to write: bank run, currency deposit ratio, and reserve deposit ratio. It will take hardly 5 minutes. Hardly 5 minutes. 7, 6, 7, 8. Hardly 5 minutes. 7:13. It will take hardly 5 minutes. Please write down. Give next subheading bank run. Give next subheading currency deposit ratio, CDR. Give next subheading CDR, currency deposit ratio, CDR. CDR लिखो. Write down. Currency deposit ratio is equals to currency upon deposits, CC upon DD. We have seen this already. देख चुके हैं हम already. Currency deposit ratio, please, is equals to currency upon deposits, which is CC upon DD. Write it down like this: 100 rupees total money, 30 in form of currency, 70 in form of deposits. CDR is equal to 30/70. जैसे मैंने यहां पे लिखा है, 40 जो कट करके लिखा, डोंट राइट दिस कट वाली चीज, सिंपली राइट 100 rupees total money, 30 in form of currency, 70 in form of deposits. Therefore, CDR is equal to 30/70. Write down CDR reflects people's preference. CDR reflects people's preference to keep money in form of currency. CDR reflects people's preference to keep money in form of currency. Right, full stop. It is a behavioral parameter. It is a behavioral parameter, comma, rising usually during festive season. Rising usually during festive season, when people's preference for cash increases. When people's preference for cash increases. Full stop. Banks may try to induce more deposits by increasing interest rates. By increasing interest rates offered. Full stop. Next subheading, write down RDR, reserve deposit ratio. RDR, write down, is equals to reserves upon deposit. Is equals to reserves upon deposits. RDR is equals to reserves upon deposits. Write down, इसी में लिखो write it down like this. Reserves upon deposit में जैसे हमने CDR में लिखा है, write it down like this. 100 rupees deposit, write down 10 rupees as reserves, 90 rupees can be lent, write it down like this. RDR is equals to 10%, RDR is equals to 10%, meaning 100 rupees of deposits, write it down like this. इसी तरीके से लिखो, the way in which I have written. 100 rupees of deposits, 10 rupees of reserve, 90 rupees can be lent. Write down. The money which can be lent, the money which can be lent by the banks, depends on two things. First, banks' own discretion about how much money will be needed by the depositors. Banks' own discretion about how much money will be needed by the depositors. And second, the regulatory requirement of reserves. Second, the regulatory requirement of reserves. लिखो इसमें आगे. It is the direction, it is इसी में, it is the direction by the regulator of banking system, it is the direction by the regulator of banking system to set aside some proportion of the deposits, to set aside some proportion of the deposits in form of reserves, some proportion of the deposits in form of reserves at all times to prevent situations like bank run, comma, which may arise if it is left to the complete discretion of banks, which may arise if it is left to the complete discretion of banks to decide how much money can be lent, सबहेडिंग दो इसमें, बैंक रन, गिव अ सबहेडिंग बैंक रन. Just please write down bank run. It is a situation in which people rush towards the banks to withdraw their deposits due to collapse in trust, in the banking system, full stop. This happens when the banks may not possess enough strength, to meet the demands of their depositors, to meet the demands of their depositors, comma, primarily in form of their withdrawal requirements, primarily in form of their withdrawal requirements, full stop. ठीक है, चलो यहां पे let's take a break. It is 7:17. Let's take a break of 8 minutes. 7:25 में मिलते हैं, ठीक है. Let's take a break of 8 minutes. I'll look up your queries in the meantime. ठीक है, it's break for you, not for me. I'll look up your queries. Look for your queries if there is any question that you have asked. I think after what we have written and what we have explained, I think now अब कोई query नहीं रह जानी चाहिए. If there is still any new query that remains, I'll certainly be happy to answer it. But अब मुझे लगता है अगर आपने जो भी questions पूछे होंगे, I think most of them would have been answered by now. We'll move forward from here. इसके बाद हम next चीज start करेंगे after the break. As I said, I'll leave you about 10-15 minutes early so that you can read those 3 articles that I had shared with you. ठीक है? Please read those 3 articles that I have shared. Bloomberg का एक article है, वो I'm just going to copy paste that article, paste link of that article in the chat section. You'll get that if it has not yet been uploaded on your portal. ठीक है? So let's take a break of about 8 minutes. We'll meet at 7:25. Okay. चलो, let's begin. I think the questions which you had asked regarding explanation of how is money created in the bank, I think those questions would have been answered. कई लोगों को कुछ उसमें questions थे. I think वो सब answers I hope so वो answer हो गए होंगे. If not, you can ask again. I'll answer them. एक question है जो repeatedly somebody is asking, how to calculate economic value of time in money supply. Economic value of time in money supply, M3. Bhai, there is no economic value here, Aditya. Time deposits simply mean how much money is kept in bank in form of time deposit. So there is no economic value of money involved here. देखो, the concept of economic value is very different. Economic value का concept होता है that how much money will be worth in future or how much future money is worth in present today. Worth वाला concept, जैसे हमने discuss किया था, the concept of real interest rates. If inflation is 10%, interest that you earn is 5%, then in real terms your wealth will appreciate only by 5%. If inflation is 10% and the interest that you earn is 5%, then in real terms your money will deteriorate at the rate of 5% every year. So that is what time value is, कि आज के 100 रुपए फ्यूचर के कितने के बराबर हैं. So this is time value. M3 में कुछ टाइम वैल्यू वाला कॉन्सेप्ट नहीं है, इकोनॉमिक वैल्यू, टाइम वैल्यू. M3 सिंपली टाइम डिपॉजिट्स विद द बैंक्स. हाउ मच मनी इज इन फॉर्म ऑफ FD, RD, फिक्स्ड डिपॉजिट, रिकरिंग डिपॉजिट. दैट इज व्हाट टाइम डिपॉजिट देयर इज. Lalit has asked this question again. Will the counting of demand deposits in measuring money supply not lead to double counting of money, as money deposited in banks will again circulate in the economy in the form of loans? Lalit, I had answered this question. The entire discussion on money creation by the banking system was premised on this. Money which bank lends. ये तो पूरा discussion इसी चीज के ऊपर बेस्ड था. I have deposited 1,000 rupees in the bank. Now bank lends that money to somebody and that somebody spends that money. You buy a car. Now that money is with the car dealer. Whose money is that? अब वो उस car dealer का अपना पैसा है. That money belongs to the car dealer. Why? Because I have sold some real goods to you. I don't care where you got this money from. You got this money by borrowing it from the bank. That's fine. But now this money is mine. उस पैसे पे quote unquote मेरा नाम लिखा है. Why? Because मैंने आपको, I have given you some real good and now I have gotten that money. I go to deposit that money into the bank. Now bank will have initial जिसने पैसा deposit किया था उसका deposit वैसा का वैसा बैंक के पास होना चाहिए. In accounting entry बैंक की क्या होगी? बैंक की accounting entry होगी that person 1 had deposited 1,000 rupees. बैंक की accounting entry होगी that this person 3 has deposited 900 rupees. total deposits with banks are 1000 plus 900 and bank has lent 900 rupees. From where did bank lend these 900 rupees? From the initial 1000, bank lent 900 rupees. Those 900 rupees went to P2. P2 spent them on P3. P3 deposited them back into the bank. So these 900 belong to P3. It's not double counting. It is P3's money which is there in the bank. By virtue of the function that the banking system performs. By virtue of function that the banking system performs, this money is going back into the bank. Hence, money supply, which is sum of all the deposits in the bank. Money supply क्या है? Currency in circulation plus deposits. So in this case, we have assumed कि P3 ने अपने जेब में कुछ नहीं रखा है. He has not kept any money in his pocket. He has deposited all the money with the bank. So in this case, demand deposits have increased by 900 rupees. This is what exactly we discussed. Your question, which did not get answered in the last class, I remember clearly, was with respect to net deposits, which I dictated today. I said we don't take banks deposits in other banks. We take only public deposits in banks. Don't take banks deposit. PNB ने SBI में कितना जमा कर रखा है? That is something which is not counted as part of money supply. Money supply is demand deposit with banks, which includes only public deposits, not banks deposit with other banks. If we look at, let's say, SBI की balance sheet, अगर हम SBI की balance sheet देखें, how much deposits does SBI has? Now SBI will have my deposits, your deposits, my father's deposits. So many people would have deposited money in SBI. Plus, let's say PNB has also deposited some money in SBI. Let's assume PNB has deposited some money in SBI. So sum of all the SBI deposits is 1 lakh rupees, and out of that 1 lakh, 20,000 is PNB's deposit. When I use the term net, which I dictated to you when I was dictating, I said we count only public's deposit with bank, not bank's deposits in other banks. So PNB's deposit in SBI, that is 20,000 rupees, will not be counted as part of money supply. Only 80,000 rupees, which is public's deposit with bank, will be counted. Okay? I hope, Lalit, now your questions have been answered. Why do we call total liabilities of RBI as monetary base? केवल currency ही नहीं होना चाहिए sir. See, again, this is how it has been defined. I had read, मैंने इसीलिए I did not paste the links in the chat section because somebody had said that they had already been uploaded, the links as well as the document. In the document which has been uploaded, that document is from RBI's website. All that has been copy pasted from RBI plus some of inputs from other sources. तो वो RBI का ही है, basically RBI का है. Plus there is a link which is given to you, which is RBI की website का link. In that it is clearly defined what is M0, that is monetary base. What is included? So what is there? होना चाहिए कि नहीं उसमें टोटल केवल करेंसी ही होनी चाहिए या फिर डिपॉजिट भी होने चाहिए? इसके ऊपर तो हम डिबेट कितने भी दिन कर सकते हैं, लेकिन क्या है ये एक फैक्ट है. दिस इज व्हाट इज ट्रूथ, सत्य. क्या है? टोटल लाइबिलिटीज ऑफ आरबीआई आर कैलकुलेटेड, आर कंसिडर्ड एज पार्ट ऑफ मॉनेटरी बेस और हाई पावर्ड मनी, नॉट only the currency in circulation. It is total liabilities of RBI which we include. तो यहां पे डिबेट खत्म हो जाती है. आरबीआई ने बोला है तो है, इसमें हम क्या डिबेट कर सकते हैं? We can argue, yes, we can argue that it should only be, let's say, only currency in circulation and not other part of liabilities. Argue कर सकते हैं. But RBI's logic would be this then, that currency in circulation is one plus other liabilities of RBI eventually also mean that there is some part of money which is not in circulation yet but is there in the economy, not with the public but with the banking system or with the government. As of now, government's money is lying in the RBI or bank's money is lying in the RBI. That money is already part of economy. वो मनी केवल प्रिंटेड स्टेज में नहीं है. बैंक ने कुछ पैसा आरबीआई के पास रखा, गवर्नमेंट ने कुछ पैसा आरबीआई के पास रखा. In this case, RBI is simply performing the banking function to banks and banks and government. But the money which is there with RBI, even though we may not think that it is with the public, but it is already in the circulation. It is already part of economy, and that is why M0 include all the liabilities, not just currency in circulation, but other parts as well. I hope this explanation satisfies you, Lakshay. Does RBI periodically sell its assets, or what does RBI do with all the golds and bonds? RBI doesn't sell its asset. No, RBI does not sell its assets. Here, because you have asked, I will tell you one more thing. एक important चीज बताऊंगा. Interesting and new thing I will tell you. We have discussed the reserve system. हमने एक reserve system discuss किया है. This question was asked by I think Soham in 2-3 classes back regarding gold standard. Gold standard का question पूछा था. Again, as I said, gold standard we will discuss in when we discuss external sector, exchange rates, and जब वहां पे discuss करेंगे gold standard क्या है. यहाँ पे लेकिन एक चीज मैं आपको बतला देता हूँ, because you have asked this question and it's an interesting question. Everybody should know. What does RBI do with its assets? What does RBI do with all the gold, all the government bonds, all the forex reserve? What does RBI do? Simple answer: RBI does not do anything. It keeps them as such. RBI is the biggest possessor or the holder of gold in our country. Federal Reserve, which is America's RBI, America's central bank, Federal Reserve is the biggest holder of gold in the world. RBI is the biggest holder of government bonds in the country, और forex assets in the country. Foreign currency assets सारे कहाँ हैं? हम बोलते हैं हमारे forex reserves $650 billion है. Forex reserves $650 billion. Where are they? They are lying in RBI's vaults or in RBI's bank account digital form में. कहीं ना कहीं RBI के पास, but वो है RBI के पास ही. So short answer, RBI doesn't do anything with those reserves. Short answer is this. Long answer is that RBI does something. कुछ करता है RBI. We have discussed the reserve system. हमने reserve system discuss किया है. You should know this, but the thing I'm going to tell you. We know the reserve system. Reserve system is what? Reserve system is that 1000 rupees of gold will be bought for 1000 rupees of currency. Fine. This is what a reserve system is. In order to inject 1000 rupees currency into the economy, RBI will purchase gold worth 1000 rupees. Let me write it, not in 1000 rupees term. Let me write it. Let's say RBI will purchase 1 gram gold. 1 gram gold RBI खरीदेगा in order to inject 1000 rupees into the economy. Fine. Now this gold is lying with RBI and nobody is demanding this gold. RBI, as I told you, आप ये 1000 रुपए RBI के पास लेके जाओ. RBI will not give you this 1 gram of gold की जाओ. I have satisfied my promise. No. This gold is there with RBI and this currency is with the public. RBI does not always buy currency or sell currency or inject currency to the economy using the equivalent amount of gold. We now have something called the fractional reserve system. Fractional reserve system. What is this fractional reserve system? Fractional reserve system is this. Understand, everyone. We would have done this as part of a discussion on external sector, but it is important, but we can do it here also. It is equally relevant here. हम external sector का part में करते हैं, but it is equally relevant here. Fractional reserve system क्या होता है? Fractional reserve. See, if you look at it, RBI's legitimacy today or our trust in RBI today is because RBI has now had about 100 years of its glorious existence. RBI possesses immense amount of gold, immense amount of trust, currency. We have been accustomed to using currency. RBI possesses government bond. Government has never defaulted on its bond, as in it has always paid back money with interest. So today we take it for granted the value of our currency note. जो आज हमारी पॉकेट में करेंसी नोट है, वी टेक फॉर ग्रांटेड व्हाट इट्स वैल्यू इज. बट 100 years बिफोर टुडे, व्हेन वी वर रूल्ड बाय ब्रिटिशर्स, There was, I mean, RBI came into existence in 1934. 100 years before today, 1917, how was money being injected into the economy? 100 साल पहले तो RBI नहीं था. What about Bank of England? Bank of England came into existence in, I think, 1700 something. How was pound sterling circulating in British economy then? Or Federal Reserve? Federal Reserve comes into existence in 1800s, about 15 years or 20 years after American independence. The initial 13 colonies, जो अमेरिका की initial 13 states हैं, on the eastern coast, न्यूयॉर्क से लेके साउथ फ्लोरिडा तक, जो initial 13 states, initial 13 colonies of US, each of them had their own Federal Reserve or the equivalent of Federal Reserve. तब अमेरिका में there was no concept of this Federal Reserve. So how was money circulating in the economy then? Money is very old, dollar is old, pound sterling is old, rupee is old. How was money circulating in the economy then? Now we take these things for granted that RBI has government bonds, RBI has gold, RBI has forex reserve. Now we take it for granted, but what about 100 years before today? Then the trust of people in such institutions was not yet established. Very less new institutions coming into complex phenomenon, difficult to be understood by normal people. So how would people trust a piece of paper? सबसे पहले सिस्टम आया द सिस्टम ऑफ रिजर्व्स, रिजर्व सिस्टम, दैट द सेंट्रल बैंक, लेट्स से फेडरल रिजर्व वुड बाय गोल्ड, लेट्स से 1000 kgs of gold would be purchased by Federal Reserve, and in return for this it will inject, let's say, $1 million. $1 million would be injected into the economy. The price of $1 was fixed. $1 was fixed in units of gold. $1 price was fixed in units of gold. $1000 है, उसके against a fixed amount of currency. 1000 kg of gold है, against that a fixed amount of currency would be injected into the economy. Fixed amount based on a price of gold. 1000 kgs for $1 million gold. That means 1 kg is equals to $1000. 1 kilo $1000 का, 1000 becomes 1 million. So 1 kg gold's price is fixed at $1000, and based on that, dollars are being injected into the economy. Number one. And similar system was followed by other countries as well. Other countries, UK will follow similar system, India will follow similar system, all other countries will follow similar system, in which they will fix the price of gold in some units of their currency, and based on their gold reserves they will inject currency into the economy. This was called as gold standard. इसको बोलते हैं gold standard. Gold standard क्या है, समझ आया? Gold standard is fixing the price of your currency in fixed units of gold. The central bank will buy gold, and in return it will inject currency into the economy at a fixed rate. In this case, for example, 1 kg becomes $1000. एक fixed rate पे central bank gold inject करेगा. This is called as gold standard, fixing the price of currency in terms of units of gold. इसको बोलते हैं gold standard. Every country used to follow this standard, gold standard. An inherent problem with gold standard was that it limited the ability of the central bank. It limited the ability of central bank to print currency, or inject currency at will. How much money can Federal Reserve inject into the economy? If price of gold is fixed, then Federal Reserve will only be able to inject currency worth how much gold does it possess. अगर इसके पास 1000 kg गोल्ड है, तो मार्केट में करेंसी कितनी की होगी? $1 million ही आएंगे मार्केट में. $1 million मतलब you can have 1000 notes of $1000 You can have 10,000 notes of $100 or 1 million notes of $1, but the point is total amount of currency in the economy will be fixed at $1 million only. अगर गोल्ड के बेसिस के ऊपर करेंसी फिक्स्ड है, if currency amount of currency that can be circulated in the economy is fixed on the basis of gold, which is called gold standard, then there is a serious limitation on the ability of central bank to inject currency into the economy. If there is need for more currency, people require more money for transaction purposes, the central bank is handicapped to inject more currency. Why? Because in order to inject, it will have to buy gold. वो print तो कर सकता है, it has the authority to print, it is the only entity which can print currency, but merely printing doesn't mean injecting. Printing के बाद it will have to buy assets. If there is gold एक physical asset है, amount of gold is limited in earth, your ability to inject currency now becomes dependent upon how much gold reserves are found. कहीं पे gold reserve मिलेगा, then central bank's ability to buy gold will increase. They may buy gold and therefore they may inject money into the economy. Otherwise, they will not be able to. So gold standard is seriously limiting central bank's ability to inject currency into the economy. एक और historical context आपको देता हूं यहां पे. Rapid population expansion in western part of US. US was initially only the original 13 colonies on the eastern coast, New York, New Hampshire से लेके Florida तक. They expanded to the west towards California. This rapid expansion towards the west is often called as gold rush. इसको historical बोलते हैं, gold rush हुआ था. The expansion to the west, one of the reasons for expansion was area was never a problem there. One of the reasons for expansion was that new reserves of gold were being found when you were expanding towards the west. तो गोल्ड के पीछे in order to find, I mean one of the reasons, in order to find gold, important historical event, you should know about it. I think now you know, you should be happy about it. Gold के पीछे expansion हुआ, and gold was not some merely not it's because of private greed. One of the reasons official expansion of United States happens toward the west is because gold was limiting the amount of money that they can circulate in the economy. If money that they can circulate in the economy, then prices would be very low, prices would fall. More money, prices rise. Less money, price will fall or not. अगर money है ही नहीं, if I want to buy goods which are worth 100 rupees and I possess only a 50 rupees note in my pocket, and rest of the people also possess only 50 rupees note in the pocket, तो वो जो 100 रुपए की चीज एक्चुअल में वर्थ है, वो 50 रुपए की ही बिक पाएगी. It cannot be sold for 100 rupees. Why? Because there is limitation of money that people have in their pockets. So if there is more production in the economy going on, or if you incentivize producers to produce more, that has to be done via increase in price. But limitation of currency is putting. I hope you are enjoying this discussion. Really interesting historical perspective. Amount of currency in circulation is limited by the amount of gold with the central bank. Hence, they cannot print more currency. Therefore, prices in the economy will remain subdued. Inflation नहीं होगी. Producers will not get an incentive to produce. All because you have something called as gold standard. From this, countries thought that now we'll move on from this reserve system to something called as fractional reserve system. Fractional reserve system क्या है? They said, अब एक काम करेंगे fractional reserve system के तहत, rather than maintaining at all times equivalent amount of gold as compared to the money circulating in the economy. If money in the economy is $1 million, you need 1000 kgs of gold at the price of 1 kg is equal to $1000. Period. Reserve system में जितनी करेंसी है उतने का गोल्ड, जितनी करेंसी उतने का गोल्ड आपके पास होना चाहिए. फ्रैक्शनल रिजर्व में क्या किया? फ्रैक्शनल रिजर्व में सेंट्रल बैंक सेड, ओके, वी एक्सपेक्ट that we will be able to maintain trust in the currency. Listen very carefully, everyone. We expect that we will be able to maintain trust in the currency even when we have 100 kgs of gold. Price of gold is still the same, 1 kg at $1,000, but against 100 kg, we can print $1 million. Fractional. We need to maintain only a fraction of gold required by the currency in circulation. इसका मतलब अगर अब आपके पास 1000 kg gold है, if you possess 1000 kg gold with you, now you can print theoretically, you can print $10 million. आप $10 million print कर सकते हो. Fractional reserve system. If you have 1000 kg gold, you can print 10 times as much currency as compared to amount of gold that you have. Fractional, that is, you need to maintain only a fraction of what is required. इसको बोलते हैं fractional reserve system. Fractional reserve system में एक problem है. The problem with fractional reserve system is that if against 100 kgs of gold you can print $1 million, or against 1000 kgs of gold you can print $10 million. Price of gold तो अभी भी same है, 1 kg is equals to $1,000. And if the central bank is giving a guarantee, हम बात कर रहे हैं 17वीं शताब्दी, 17वीं 18वीं 19वीं शताब्दी की, we are talking about 17th 18th 19th century, when formal governments are not yet so formal, RBI or central banks are not yet so formal, trust of the people in the banking system is less. We are talking about those times. If in those times central bank says that we usher in a fractional reserve system, central bank says that against 1000 kgs gold we will be printing $10 million, not just $1 million. In those times 18th century for example, in those times the promise that central bank will be giving to people in exchange for this currency would have to be a very hard promise. क्या उस समय आरबीआई ऐसा प्रॉमिस कर सकता है कि आई विल गिव यू 2000 करेंसी नोट and I will make sure that this note is exchanged by everybody? In 18th century, can RBI promise like this? No. Nobody will accept such a promise. Today we accept this promise because we trust RBI's ability. But in 18th century, if RBI makes this promise that take this 2000 rupees note and I will make sure that it is acceptable by everybody, nobody is going to trust this promise. In 18th century, the manner in which such promise is enforced is this, कि ये जो $1 का नोट होता है ना, इसमें गोल्ड की स्ट्रिप भी होगी. Contains actual gold worth that $1. Contains actual gold worth $10 or $100. तो इस पेपर में, कागज के टुकड़े में एक्चुअल गोल्ड भी होना चाहिए, almost to the amount of the gold possessed by central bank. Only then will this promise be acceptable. Otherwise, there is no trust in the banking system then or the central bank then. अगर बोले कि हम 10 times print करेंगे, if we print 10 times, that means in let's say a $10 note, gold's worth $10 should have been there, but now gold worth only $1 is there. In a $10 note, gold worth $10 should be there, gold worth only $1 is there now. There would be serious trust issues now. आपने बोला कि हम फ्रैक्शनल करेंगे, point is there was going to be serious trust issues now. उन ट्रस्ट इश्यूज को एड्रेस करने के लिए क्या करोगे? What will you do to address those trust issues? You will say we will usher in fractional reserve system, but fractional reserve system would be such कि हम गोल्ड का तो 10 गुना प्रिंट करेंगे, लेकिन जो हम एक्स्ट्रा प्रिंट कर रहे हैं that would be printed against some other virtual asset which is government bond. कोई नया एसेट लेके आएंगे मार्केट में अगेंस्ट विच वी विल बाय करेंसी. गवर्नमेंट बॉन्ड इज दैट न्यू एसेट. गवर्नमेंट बॉन्ड क्या है? गवर्नमेंट बॉन्ड भी तो कागज का टुकड़ा है. जैसे करेंसी कागज का टुकड़ा है, गवर्नमेंट बॉन्ड इज ऑल्सो पीस ऑफ पेपर. What is government bond? Government bond is simply on a piece of paper. Government writes that I promise to pay the holder of this paper sum of 100 rupees plus 10% interest, whatever interest is written on. That is also piece of paper. a piece of paper issued by the government that is in form of a promise that I will pay you this much money. Currency note, a piece of paper in form of promise by Reserve Bank of India governor. These worthless pieces are being exchanged with each other. Government का piece with RBI का piece. RBI ने दी currency, government के पास, government ने दिया bond. RBI now holds bond, government now holds currency. Now the trust in currency system or the financial system will be premised on ability of government to fulfill its promise. Ability of government to fulfill its promise that it has written in this government bond, in this fractional reserve system. So RBI doesn't sell gold. RBI doesn't sell foreign currency asset. RBI has government bonds, and the ability of RBI now in this fractional reserve system is premised on ability of the government to uphold its promise, which it has mentioned on the government bond. Government bond पे जो लिखा है भाई RBI has let's say 1000 kgs gold and $1 million पहले इसके अगेंस्ट केवल $1 million हो सकते थे, but now $10 million are circulating against this. Where are these $9 million coming from? These $9 million are coming from RBI buying this new asset in form of government bond, which is a creation essentially of this fractional reserve system. कि जो hard asset है, जो actual asset है, asset which actually carries some worth, which is gold, उसके केवल fractional होने की जरूरत है. From 100 kgs you can print worth 1000 kgs, but there must be some other asset which is government bond. ठीक है? So this is about gold standard and fractional reserve system. चलो, I'll stop the class. I said I'll stop the class 15 minutes earlier. It has been, I was explaining this. I'll answer the questions. Questions मैं answer करता हूँ. Those who want to leave may leave. I'll answer some of the questions that are there. Some of you have asked about CRR, SLR, all these things. मैंने वो करी ही नहीं है अभी तक. वो मेरे को अभी करनी थी, ब्रेक के बाद करना था CRR, SLR ये सब चीजें. But I have not yet done. Simply think about reserve deposit ratio. मैंने और कुछ नाम ही नहीं लिया अभी तक, तो please, I am not under any obligation to explain. Please don't ask those questions regarding CRR, SLR, all those things that you know. Repo. Reserve deposit ratio. Abu is asking, deposit 100 out of 100, 10 is reserve and 90 lend. And how RDR is 10%? RDR should be 0.1%. नहीं Abu, it is 10 upon 100 ना. Reserve is 10, deposit is 100, so 10 upon 100 कितना हुआ? 10%. 10 upon 100 is 10% or not? 0.1 or 10%. जिससे खरीदेंगे उससे पे करेंगे तो मार्केट में करेंसी कैसे आएगी अगर फॉरेन से लिया तो? अच्छा, लिंक नहीं मिला है आप लोगों को. लिंक यू विल गेट, डोंट वरी, लिंक यू विल गेट. I'll ask the coordinator. I thought the link was also uploaded. I'll ask the coordinator. The document has been uploaded. Link would be part of the synopsis. जो आपको synopsis upload होगा class में. In end of that there would be 3 links. Just wait. I will. अच्छा, they are in handout section. Somebody is responding. Vaibhav, your question is something that we have already answered. RBI buys from somebody. That somebody is in economy. RBI buys from, let's say, some primary dealer, PNB. पंजाब नेशनल बैंक तो इकोनॉमी का पार्ट है. अब पीएनबी के पास पैसा आ गया ना, सो आरबीआई बाइज सम एसेट फ्रॉम पीएनबी, एसेट कम्स विद आरबीआई, मनी कम्स विद पीएनबी. आरबीआई बाइज फ्रॉम, let us say Kalyanji Jewellers. It will not buy from Kalyanji Jewellers, but let's say RBI buys gold from some foreign institutions. Now money will go into the economy, asset will come to the RBI. So this is how money is introduced into the economy. Rasool is asking, sir, RBI inject 1000 rupees into the economy and the banking system makes money multiplying 5000. Then withdraw of 2000 rupees by depositors. How will be done if there is only RBI injected rupees 1000? Oh, very good question. Very good question. So we have discussed in the money multiplier. Everybody please listen. Those of you who are here. From 1000 rupees, now the total amount of money in the economy is 10,000. Actual में कितना पैसा है? In form of currency. केवल 1000 रुपए है. In form of currency, only 1000 rupees is there. Why? Because initial amount of injection was 1000. That was, let's assume, in form of currency by RBI. RBI buys gold from me, gives me 1000, and that is the only currency which is there in the economy. After that, that 1000 rupees is circulating in the economy again and again, which is leading to rise in money supply. But amount of currency in circulation is still that 1000. So how can 2000 rupees be withdrawn? They cannot be withdrawn. बिल्कुल नहीं withdraw किए जा सकते. 2000 rupees cannot be withdrawn. Total money supply in the economy is 10,000. Currency in circulation is 1000. It is assumed that only 10% of currency, 10% of money which is there in the economy will be required by people to withdraw. And that is why reserve deposit ratio was 10%. It is assumed that people will need only 10% of money which they have deposited. That is why the process will stop at 10,000, क्योंकि अब maximum currency economy में कितनी है? 1000. 10,000 का 10% is 1000. So it is assumed that maximum you will need 10%. अगर वो 11,000 हो जाता, if that process was allowed to continue more, then 11,000 ka 10% would have been 1100. 1100 rupees are not there in the economy, only 10,000, only 1,000 are there. So where will those extra 100 come from? They will not be coming. So depositors cannot withdraw 2,000 rupees from the bank in this case. It is premised on the assumption, ये जो पूरा money creation process है, it is premised on the assumption that banks will need only 10% of the deposit at any time to satisfy the wants of depositors. It is premised on this assumption. ठीक है. श्रद्धा का question, demand deposits are available on demand, so but they are considered in supplied money. Are they not included in money demanded? नहीं यार, money demanded. श्रद्धा ये कैसा, आप समझे नहीं. Money demand and money supply, two different things. Money demand is we calculated how much money is demanded in the economy, how much money are people demanding. Money supply, we are calculating how much money is present in the economy. One of the ways of measuring money present in the economy, one of the components of money present in the economy, that money which is there in form of demand deposits. Manu ka question, sir, if RBI has created money by buying government bonds or any bond, what happens when these bonds mature? Does it take back that principal amount from market permanently and just the interest of those bonds will remain in the market? So if RBI has created money by buying government bonds, if RBI buys government bond, money goes to the government. It is government's responsibility to pay interest to the RBI. It is government's responsibility to pay back that principal back to RBI. जिसने भी सरकार को पैसा दिया है उसकी रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी है, सरकार की रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी है कि वो अपनी ऑब्लिगेशन पूरी करे. दैट इज व्हाई आई सेड इट इज प्रिमाइज्ड ऑन गवर्नमेंट्स एबिलिटी टू फुलफिल इट्स ऑब्लिगेशन. The trust in financial system is premised on this. Government bond is simply a piece of paper signifying that a promise which government has made, nothing more than that. So if government defaults on its promise, that means government will not be able to fulfill the demands of anybody who holds that bond. Collapse on trust in financial system. So government would have to do this. Okay? So when bond matures, government has to pay back with interest. It has to pay back. Darshan. Sir, NCERT states that we are ultimately interested in learning the relationship between aggregate transaction demand for money in the economy and nominal GDP in a given year. However, after the equation MDT is equals to KPY, it said that here Y is the real GDP. I did not understand this intention to find relation with nominal GDP and then up with relation with real GDP. Darshan, PY is nominal GDP, na? P into Y is nominal, Y is real, P is nominal. So P times Y is nominal. So इंटेंशन क्या है? नॉमिनल जीडीपी का रिलेशन और उस नॉमिनल जीडीपी की कैलकुलेशन में रियल जीडीपी आ रहा है. सो पी टाइम्स वाई को देखो ना. नेक्स्ट, खुशबूज क्वेश्चन, मनी प्रिंटेड बाय आरबीआई इज ऑलवेज इक्वल टू द एसेट्स परचेज्ड बाय इट. यस, एसेंशियली यस, एसेंशियली money printed by RBI is always equal to the assets purchased by it, which includes gold, government bond, foreign reserve, foreign currency assets, all these things. Essentially, it is always equal. Anushka, sir, why we didn't count the money given back to the bank by P1, P2 and so on with interest added in it? Why only count the new money deposit? No, it would also be counted. Don't worry about it. That money which is paid in form of interest would certainly be counted. We just assume for simplification purposes, अपने explanation के लिए हमने assume किया कि interest का component हमने add नहीं किया है. अगर इंटरेस्ट ऐड करता तो वो ऑलरेडी कॉम्प्लेक्स कैलकुलेशन और कॉम्प्लेक्स हो जाती. सो आई डिड नॉट ऐड इंटरेस्ट देयर. ठीक है, तो यू नो दैट सर्टेनली वुड बी एडेड. बिल्कुल क्यों नहीं ऐड होगा. हर्ष, sir, in M1 is equals to M times M0. M0 is currency in circulation plus deposit with RBI. How does the deposit with RBI gets multiplied with banks into money supply? Harsh, I have explained this answer. Explained this. लक्ष्य का क्वेश्चन था, मैंने एक्सप्लेन कर दिया था. Links have been shared in the PDF format of the handout section. Please everybody check that out. ठीक है, तो please everyone kindly read those links and क्या क्वेश्चन है आपका, क्या क्या चाहते हो आप, बात देते हैं, मैं आपको एक्सप्लेन करता हूं. द बैंक ओनली हैड ₹100 लेफ्ट व्हेन इट गॉट द डिपॉजिट ऑफ 900 फ्रॉम P2. So the total deposit at that moment should be 1000. I cannot understand why it is 1900. क्यों नहीं समझ में आया आपको यार ये वाली चीज. P1 ने डिपॉजिट किया 1000 बैंक के अंदर. P1 ने 1000 डिपॉजिट किया. अब बैंक की एंट्री में P1 का 1000 तो लिखा ही हुआ है ना. 1000 रुपीज डिपॉजिट बाय P1, वो तो कहीं नहीं गए. Bank has simply lent this money, 900 rupees, bank has lent to P2. P2 spends it on P3. This 900 rupees now become P3's money, which comes back to the bank in form of deposit. अब 900 rupees यहां पे जो P3 का मनी है, P3 का मनी 900 rupees है. So P1 का मनी 1000 rupees. P1 का, अब आप ये बोलोगे कि P1 के 100 rupees ही डिपॉजिटेड है बैंक में. P1 बोलेगा, केस कर देगा आपके ऊपर, 2-4 लटमार साथ में लेके आएगा. P1 ने कितना पैसा दे रखा है बैंक को? 1000. How much money does bank owe to P1? 1000. How much money does bank owe to P3? 900. So total deposits with bank कितने हो गए? 1900 हो गए कि नहीं? Just that bank has lent this part of money doesn't mean that bank doesn't owe 1000 rupees to P1. Doesn't mean that P1 has 100 rupees deposits only with bank. It has entire 1000 rupees with bank. ठीक है यार, तुमने स्पैम कर दिया. ठीक है. हाउ विल फॉरेन गवर्नमेंट बॉन्ड्स ब्रिंग करेंसी विद इन टेरिटरी? आई एक्सप्लेन दैट, डोंट वरी अबाउट इट. चल, ईमेल आईडी मिल जाएगी यार, आपको चिंता मत करो. यू विल गेट एवरीथिंग. डोंट वरी. एवरीथिंग विल बी गिवन टू यू. डोंट वरी. चलो, टेक केयर एवरीबॉडी. गुड बाय, गुड नाइट. वील सी यू द नेक्स्ट टाइम. टिल देन, बाय. सी यू.